Let's see.
Hi, everybody. I won't use the mic unless I have to.
So let me know if I'm not projecting very well and you can't hear me, then I will use the mic. What do you think? Yeah, you're okay?
You got more than that, Jojo.
You think I could look
Yeah.
louder? It's, I'm not a good projector, but I will talk, I could use both if you want, but I noticed that there's people here that I know, so thank you for coming, everybody, today. I'm really excited to be here. So I hope that you guys are awake and ready to go. I just want to get a feel for how many people here like birds? You can show me a few hands. Okay, so most people like birds. Who doesn't like birds?
They're not.
Yeah, they wake you up too early. They make a mess of your car. Like some people are like, ah. Okay, who loves birds? Who really loves birds? There are some really bird lovers. Does anybody think like I'm a birder? Like you're a birder. I'm a birder. Come on, Ashley, I know. She's a birder. She's from birding. Who else? Birders? Yeah. Good, excellent. Well, so, it's a funny thing because I don't think we all start out as birders, but I think what happens is it sort of just happens, all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, I'm a birder. You don't want to admit it. Like my husband doesn't want to admit it. But anyway, so I'll tell you a little bit about me before we start. So just my background and why I'm here. I'm originally from New Jersey. You might not be able to tell with my accent or anything like that. I worked in all types of jobs. So like my background is really kind of varied. I mean, I did everything from, I worked in map making. I was a realtor. I worked in the corporate world. I worked for ExxonMobil. I did a lot of administrative work and things like that. Then when I got tired of that, I left that business and I started my own desktop publishing business. Desktop publishing is kind of like, writing, editing, typesetting, things like that. So I started my own business and it kind of got me, doing a lot of different things in different corporations. And then at part-time, I always did fitness because I was always into athletics. I like sports and things like that. So I taught fitness since I was 19 and it became certified by ACE, which is the American Council on Exercise, and AFA, Aerobics and Fitness Association of America. And then I got certified to teach sight spinning and Zumba, which is Latin dancing, and Pilates and yoga and kickboxing. I mean, like you name it, I did it all because I wanted to do it all. And I love cycling. So I became a USA cycling coach. And then I did personal training. So I was doing that since I was 19. And I still actually do that, just not full time anymore. And so, but anyway, so when I lived in New Jersey, I didn't really, I met my future husband. And then his visa ran out. He's from England and his visa ran out. So he had to move back to England. So he asked me to come with him. So, I left everything I knew, sight unseen, to go with him to England. Sight unseen, never knew anything. The things we do for love, I left and went to England. So we got married in England. And when we were there, I decided I'd go back to school as a mature student. And so I went back to school and I took biology and psychology and I got my associate's degree in those. And part-time, I always did fitness. So I taught at all these different fitness places. And in the meantime, we mountain bike raced. So we had mountain bike raced in New Jersey. And then in England, we started doing all the nationals. And so we did all the national championships in England. I ended up, I shouldn't say ended up, but I was third place in the vet women. So that was like, yay. And I qualified for the world championship. So I was really proud about that. And we got to travel a lot. So my husband had an international job. He worked for ExxonMobil and they always say, join Exxon, travel the world. So we got to travel I've been to like 30 different countries and counting. So doing a lot of international traveling. Yeah. So anyway, so that's that. And so then in the off season, when you're not racing, I used to hike in the woods. And so I hiked in the woods. I started seeing these birds. I was like, wow, this is really cool. Okay, so then he was transferred to Virginia. Northern Virginia, excuse me. So we moved to Northern Virginia. So I continued my business there and I continued doing the personal training and the classes and all that. And I stopped racing because I had a little accident, bad accident. I'm lucky to be here. And so, but I always, continued biking. So, and then what we would do is just like in the off season and stuff, I always kind of like went into the woods, and that was kind of my escape to get away from the stresses of the world and, the corporate world and everything else. And, just, it's good for the soul when you're out there. It's just good for the soul. So that's how that started. So then we moved to Texas, right? And when we got to Texas, the funny thing is on the day of the closing for a house, the realtor was supposed to be there. On the closing day, you're supposed to go do a walkthrough, right? So we're supposed to do our walkthrough, and the realtor that was there, he didn't show up. And we were like, he was partying in Austin. He's a young guy, he's partying in Austin, right? So we're like waiting for him to come back. And so my husband goes, well, all right, while we're waiting, I'll go let's look at the outside of the house and everything and check out the grounds. So he goes around the front, I go around the back, I go to the backyard, and I see these ducks. I'm like, oh my God, and I yell out, we have ducks! And of course they flew up on the roof. I scared them, so they flew on the roof, and I'm like, oh my God, they're on the roof. I had never seen, do you guys know what these are? Right? Black-bellied whistling ducks. We don't have them in New Jersey. They don't come to Virginia. They just don't come up that far north. And so when I saw these ducks, I was like, oh my God. And they flew up on the roof. And I never saw ducks on the roof before. So I was very, very excited. And I heard so much about Texas when people said, oh my God, you're moving to Texas. You're so lucky. And I'm like, and I realized how lucky I am because, so just finishing up with these ducks, they became I used to like wood ducks, and I still do. They're beautiful. They're gorgeous, right? But one thing about these black-bellied whistling ducks, say that 3 times fast, they have no fear. I mean, you can see right there with the alligator, right? They're standing next to the alligator. They have no fear. They're cute. I mean, look at those little young, right? They have these little babies, their little fur balls. They're cute. They're adorable. They're very social. I mean, they get along with, other birds. They're with Rosie at Spoonbills right now, so they get along with everybody. They're just the coolest ducks. And you know what? They whistle. What other ducks whistle? I mean, how cool is that? They whistle. So that's pretty awesome. Anyway, so some people, said to me, they go, like, what got you into birding? So you might, like, maybe everybody has, like, they call it a spark bird, which is like the first bird they saw that kind of got them into birding. Like, does anybody have a bird that they say, I saw this for the first time and that got me into it? No? Yes. Annette?
Bluebirds.
Bluebirds.
Ago,
Ah, okay.
My neighborhood, I made a call up, they needed someone to take over the sanctuary. I just wanted to get into something. The first time he took me out to a box and I saw the eggs, and then like a few boxes later saw the babies. I was hooked.
Yeah. So something always just gets you, Anyway, so when I was in Virginia, the thing that really got me into birding was I had gotten my first pair of binoculars. I started going on bird walks, and somebody said to me, I got really good at, well, back then, we didn't have Merlin. We didn't, we'll talk about those apps and things later, but we didn't have all those things. So I used to like listen to CDs and try to hear the bird songs and get them in my head so that when I could hear them, I would be able to ID them and everything. So I got pretty good at it. And so the leader of the walk said, do you want to co-lead a walk? And I was like, sure. So I started doing that. And then the next thing you know, I was leading walks and I was going on all these walks. Well, then up came this citizen science project, and they were doing a Birds of Loudoun County Atlas. And it's a 4-year project. And so for 4 years, you volunteer, and I did like it was like a mile, about a square mile, and you had to like really notice the birds in that area and see what are they doing. And so you used to have to write down, and we, again, this is before iPhones and all that stuff. We had to like actually write down with pen and paper what we saw the birds doing. Are they laying eggs? Are they feeding their young? Are they building a nest? Like, what are they doing? So when you look at something that deeply, like you really get it, there's this connection. And so that got me really into it. And my birding like level went up to here. So basically that kind of got me into it. Then when I moved here to Texas, I'm just gonna go into the goals in a minute, but when I moved here to Texas, I was doing, mountain biking and I was biking through the Spring Creek Nature Trail. So I know a lot of you guys know it because Mish and Tom and Diana and Jeff, and I think that's everybody that I know here, works with the trail crew. And the trail crew, we maintain the trails along the Spring Creek Nature Trail. Do you guys know mostly what that is? Anybody not know? I mean, don't feel stupid if you don't know. I know a lot of people have lived in the woodlands forever and they're like, I never knew this was here. It's a great place, right? And so it's beautiful. So when I went there, I saw the sign that said Bayou Land Conservancy. It was before it was open to the public. And when I saw that, I thought, I'm gonna call them and see if they need, somebody to like lead some bird walks. I wanna lead bird walks here because this place is awesome. And so I volunteered and they were like, yes. And then they said, do you want to take the ambassador program? Anybody take the ambassador program? Yay. So I was like, sure. So I took the ambassador program and you learn a lot. And I thought, that's awesome. So took that. And then, led the bird walks. We did it before COVID. So even with COVID, we were doing it with masks. And then I decided to take Texas Master Naturalist. You guys enjoying this program so far? Isn't it awesome? I mean, it's great. And like, there's so much to it. There's so much to learn and there's so much more that you can learn. And we never stop learning anyway. So that's the good thing. So I took the course and as you know, at the end of this course, you get to present something if you want to. Did you know that? You get to present. Do you guys have in your mind, like what you want to present? I know some people don't like to public speak or anything, and so it's scary, but it's not, because we're all friends, we all kind of know each other, we all have common interests, so don't worry, do it, it's great. Well, anyway, I did mine on ornithology, because I love birds, and Kim and some other people said, hey, do you want to teach the ornithology class at the Texas Master Naturalist? I was like, yeah, I was so excited, so I'm really excited to be here, I'm really happy, and I'm so glad that you guys are here. So, the goals of the class, this is basically what we're going to cover. And I try to, maintain like what's in this Texas Master Naturalist book. And so I'm trying to cover all of these things. I'm not going to go through every single one, but we'll do that. And you notice at the end, I put other fun stuff thrown in for good measure because I like to throw in stuff that doesn't have anything to do with the curriculum. So let's start with what is a bird? I mean, the basics. Oh, by the way, I took all the photographs, unless it says this photographs unless somebody, I took all the photographs. So they're all amateur photographs. They're not good. They're not like Jeff Hodges who takes these amazing pictures, right? But you know what? I took them and I'm happy with them and I stuck them in everywhere I could. Anyway, that little bird came to my feeder. So the unique or key features about birds, they're the only living creature that has feathers. Nothing else has feathers. They have bills or beaks. You could use either terminology. Obviously, they hatch from hard-shelled eggs. Now, fish and reptiles do lay eggs, but these are hard-shelled eggs. They're warm-blooded creatures. They have a four-chambered heart, like we do. We have right and left ventricle, right and left atrium, and they do too. They have hollow bones. So the bones are very lightweight, but they're dense and they're very stiff and very strong for flying, and most fly. So there's about, maybe 60 species that are not flyers, and most of those are from like the oceanic islands that have mammalian predators. So think like New Zealand, say for instance, but a lot of those birds are extinct now because of predators and things that came over that shouldn't have been there in the first place. Anyway, so a little bit about the anatomy. So one thing that makes the birds very unique is that they have what's called a furcula. So if you've ever had like the wishbone of a chicken and you make a wish on Thanksgiving or whatever, right? That's called the furcula. And basically that is what enables the birds to fly because they're connected to the powerful muscles that attach to the sternum. And they have what's called a keeled sternum. That's this here. It's sort of like keeled, like a boat keel. And basically it's attached. And so that is what makes them be able to fly. And they're the only vertebrates that have that fused collarbone. And also birds have more cervical vertebrae than any other animal. Humans have 7 at the base. We have 7 cervical vertebrae at the base of our skull here. birds have about 13 to 25. And so they're really flexible. Why do you think that is? Why do you think they need that flexible? What do you think?
Most bird's eyes are fixed in their skulls.
Yeah, that's a good conclusion. Well, you know, they needed to, believe it or not, preen their feathers to clean themselves, to preen and groom their feathers, because you know, you ever see them turning around, if they really need to be able to groom, that's really important to them. So yeah, so that's them. And then some birds like penguins and flightless birds, they have solid bones, but most other birds have hollow bones. This, we're not going to test you on any of this, but this is just parts of a bird that, you know, in like bird terminology and bird speak, there's different terms that you use when you talk about the feathers, you talk about the primaries, and basically you might hear somebody say, oh, the primaries were blue. Well, you know, that's the longest, kind of the longest part of the feather. So you don't really have to, you know, get into all this, but this is just the words that are kind of used to talk about the terminology. So a little bit about history. This is not my favorite subject in school, I have to say. But I figured I'd cover it because I have to kind of know some things about history. So, okay, so in 1861, Archaeopteryx, a fossil with a mixture of feathers and wings, sharp claws, and long bony tail, they found that in Germany. So that was the first thing. Then in the late 1800s, in Darwin's time, scientists believed that they were linked to dinosaurs. Now, some people really dig this history, and if you kind of know something and you want to add it, feel free. But then during the 20th century, paleontologists found clavicles in older reptile groups. They found that, and then they were challenging that dinosaur bird connection, and they were kind of like sort of skeptic. They were very skeptic about that. And then in the 1960s, 1980s, paleontologists spearheaded the dinosaur renaissance, and they confirmed the presence of that furcula and wishbone and clavicles in dinosaurs. And then in the 1990s, fossils from thousands of genuine dinosaurs were discovered in China, and they revealed feathers dating back like 130 million years. So that supported the link between the birds and the theropods, and molecular and visual evidence backed the connection. So theropod dinosaurs are ones that walk on 2 feet. Feather evolution, new fossils show that feathers attach to the arm bones of theropods such as T-Rex and velociraptors. Is that how you say it? Right? And then this major extinction event occurred like 66 million years ago, probably caused by an asteroid, and basically wiped out all of the non-avian dinosaurs and 95% of avian species. So the surviving 5% are predominantly neoaves, which are like modern birds today. So really, it did a number on these birds, but they somehow managed to survive, which is amazing. So the bird diversity generally, if you ever like took biology, like, you know, there's a biology hierarchy, which kind of, excuse me. And basically that organizes living things into descending levels of complexity. So what we're dealing with right now is class, order, family. So birds make up the class Aves. There's 41 orders. There's 249 families, 2,057 genus, 10,000 species of the birds in the world right now. There used to be billions before this event and everything. I know, right? They're found on 7 continents, open ocean, and Antarctica. The largest avian diversity found is in tropical areas like the Amazon basin, North and South America, East Africa, and Southeast Asia. Endemic species are located on isolated islands like the Galapagos. So you'll get like, you know, blue-footed boobies and things like that. And people say to me, like, how many birds are in America? Right now, there's about 960 species living in North America. 630 of those are in Texas, or found in Texas, and 350 in Southeast Texas, in our area where we live. That's amazing. That's why the people, when I was moving from Virginia to Texas, they were so jealous. They were like, you're going to Texas. And we had good birds in Virginia. And half the species in the world are in the order Passiformes, which is also called passerines or songbirds in, just terminology. I threw this in because this is kind of like the newest. There's always things happening in history, and the latest research study, it's challenging the conventional notions about the evolutionary history of birds. And what they're saying is that now the bird tree of life is based on genomes of 363 species. So I'm just going to go through this quickly, but study of modern bird genomes has resulted in the reconstruction of the bird family tree. So once we knew this family tree to be a certain way, they're kind of challenging that. And what they're saying is that, this project, it's called the Bird 10,000 Genomes Project. It's the work of collaborative research by scientists all over the world that participated, and basically they're going to sequence every existing bird species. It's been going on for 10 years, and they basically integrated genomic data, I can't even say that. Yeah, that's it, from more than 360 species, gathering information from nearly 200 fossils. So they got these old fossils and they got all this data. And now they're saying among the roughly 10,000 living bird species, 3 major clades are identified. Clades are like groups of the same thing. And I said, these findings offer scientists a clear understanding of the bird family tree, particularly within the neoaves, the modern birds. The revised tree challenges previous classifications of neoaves by reorganizing it into 4 major subgroups. So those 4 groups up here, the telluraves, elementaves, columbaves, and then the other one, 4 of those groups. The elementaves is actually a new group that they formed. They are always kind of changing things around, because after that dinosaur extinction event, there was a period of time where there's a lot of diversification among the birds. And so they're only finding out now, so this is, the reason I'm throwing this in here is just because this is just kind of released. A lot of this information was just released sort of recently. And so it might change things, but it's going to take a while for us to finally get to the point where we understand it all, because I'm not even going to start to say I understand, because even scientists don't. So basically, there's about 5 categories based on lifestyle and habitat. So we've got land birds, such as hawks, woodpeckers, songbirds, freshwater birds, some ducks, rail, herons, seabirds like pelicans, boobies, frigate birds, flightless birds like the ostrich, the emu, kiwi, and underwater flyers. I know penguins don't fly, but they kind of fly underwater. Cormorants and anhingas, which fly in both places. And based on body shape and lifestyle, you've got, waders, and there's some different type of waders that we see around duck-like. You have the surface feeding, the diving, because there's different types of ducks, mergansers, coots, geese, pelicans, the perching birds, the sparrows, crows, all the birds that perch, the fowl-like, the chicken, turkey, rails, the hawk-like, which are the eagles and the kites, and then you got owls, and that's actually a separate, the owls is separate. It just went together for some reason. Now the owls is now considered a sister group to the eagles and raptors, according to that revised tree, but I'm not putting it like that right now for the most part. Then hummingbirds, tree clinging birds like woodpeckers, nuthatches, gull-like birds. So there is a lot of diversity out there. The pigeons, can't forget about those. There's a heck of a lot of diversity. So, so these are some of the, these are some of the common birds that we see around our area. And so, anybody familiar with these birds? So I don't have a pointer, but just, what do you think some of these are? Just yell out what you think. What do you see?
I think the clicker works as a pointer.
Oh, does it?
I think there's a button on it that makes, is that right?
Oh, nice.
Yep. There should be like a laser pointer.
Oh, right, a laser pointer. Cool. Oh, there. Okay, what's this guy? Yes. Yep, definitely. Okay, what's this guy? Yep. This one, easy peasy, Annette. Right, okay, everybody knows this one. Yep, and then the counterpart, little fuzzy. Yep, how about this guy? Yep,
What is that one? The red one?
the house finch.
Oh, little.
Yeah. Yep, he just took a bath. He's in my bird bath. The crows, which I feed. Everybody knows these. I know this guy. Oh, you guys are good.
She could be drinking.
Red bellied, yep. Yeah, you guys are really good.
Another mockingbird.
Yeah. How about this one? Yes, who did that? Ashley, excellent. You guys are good. All right. So, most of these birds are the ones in our area. I always like to have fun with that because those are the ones we see all the time. And then these are a lot of the woodpeckers that we see all the time. We've got our red-headed, which comes in the summer. I'm going to kind of just go from side to side here. The red-headed, the next one over is, what do you think that one is?
The yellow-bellied sapsucker.
Oh, sorry, this one. Oh, this one.
That a flicker?
Funny enough, you know what? It's the juvenile of the red-headed.
Oh.
They don't get their red head until they're adults. Yeah. And then this guy, yellow-bellied sapsucker, the red-bellied woodpecker, he's caching some food, is pileated. This is the northern flicker, and then our downy. So those are the ones that we see, really quite often. And then, of course, we have the red picaded endangered woodpecker. And, they usually prefer longleaf pine, but a lot of the pines have been kind of destroyed. So they will also build nest cavities in loblolly and shortleaf and slash pines, but they prefer those. So I put these up here just because the red picaded has this white cheek patch. I like this little pointer. This is cool. And then these are banded females. You can see that the bands, and they are females because they don't have some red behind the eye, because usually the male has the red behind the eye. This one is a downy, and you can see the difference. Like this has the white cheek patch. They look similar, really similar, especially when you're in the field. But this one has the black here. So that's how you can tell this red picaded. And basically, they've been on the endangered species list since 1970, and they nest in mature pine forests in Texas, like W.G. Jones, right down the street. So we're lucky. Every time I go there, I see people from like all over. I mean, there's people coming from California, like Canada, and they're like, we want to see the red picaded woodpecker, because every bird has this bird list, and they want to like check off their list, right? So, but yeah, and so they're mainly in there, and some in Louisiana and some in Florida, but we're pretty lucky that we have them here. It's quite amazing. And then the next thing, we have a lot of birds of prey and raptors. Oops. In this area. I guess this thing takes a minute to catch up. So I'm sure you guys probably know some of these, but I'm just going to point out a couple. So everybody knows this one, right? The bald eagle. How about this? The juvenile, yep, juvenile bald eagle, and same thing, flying. They don't get their white head and tail in 5 years. It takes them to get that white head and tail. So that's, if you see a bird like that, usually they're really flat wings. Okay, this guy, think accipiter, long tail. I'll give you a hint. The neck is sticking out past the shoulders. So that's Cooper's horn. Yeah, and then this one, little hint there, red-tailed hawk at flying. You might see the red tail, but you don't always see the red tail. Sometimes the adults, until they're adults, they don't get their red tail until later. So, and a lot of the red-tailed hawks they're beautiful, but they're all different. They don't all look the same. So if you're out there trying to ID them, they're not going to look alike. These are red shoulder, of course, red shoulder. You can almost see that when they're flying. This is cool. Yep, swallowtail kite. Those are so cool, aren't they? Then we've got our osprey. That's it, flying. vultures, kestrel, right? American kestrel. And then this one, that was in my backyard looking at me. Look at how close I got. That one is, it's a Cooper's hawk, but it's immature Coopers. Cool, right?
Do they stay in the woods quite a bit? Do they hunt the woods?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They do. And they're very swift, like through the
Yeah.
trees. Yeah, like they'll just zoom down. Like if you ever see like at your feeders, if you have feeders, everything takes off. Typically it's a Cooper's hawk coming through. They're so fast. Yeah, right. And everything just goes. So, and then some of the waterfowl that we have around, again, our whistling ducks, we've got some blue-winged teal, shoveler, northern shovelers, cool with the bill, beautiful wood ducks that were my favorite until the black-bellied whistling ducks welcomed me to Texas. Killdeer, isn't this gorgeous? That was a green-winged teal sleeping. Anybody know this one?
Not here.
Yeah, yellow crown night heron. Yeah, we have black crowned also, and then cormorants. We have different cormorants. This is you guys know what that is? Look at the eye.
Green?
No,
Coop?
no. Something to do with this, but she's hanging out with him. Female. It's a female hanging out with the wood ducks. That's how you can always tell female wood ducks is that eye. It's got that. That's what I always look for when I'm looking to see. But see, she's hanging out with these guys, so she's pretty popular. And then we got pelicans. Yay, the pelican lady, Kim. Yeah, so that's a lot of the birds that we see in this area. People ask me sometimes, oh, I know this is going to get ahead of me. There we go. See, I got ahead of myself. Just going to quickly go over like, how do we ID birds? People say like, well, how do you ID birds? Most of the time people go, they look at the color and that's what they see and they go by, and that's good. But I think the first thing is size and shape. You look at the size, you look at the shape and you go, is it bigger than a robin? Is it smaller than a robin? You know, what does it look like? Is it fat like a duck? Okay, so you kind of narrow it down. Then you go, well, color. Okay, well, it's red or it's blue. Okay, that's a good thing too. It kind of rules out certain things. Then you look at the bill. You say, well, what kind of bill does it have? Because each bill is doing something different and there's a reason for that. The location, does it make sense as to like where it is? Like, where is it? Is it way up in a tree or is it on the beach? You know, that's going to help you kind of narrow things down a bit. Habitat, what kind of habitat is it in? Is it in, you know, a swampy forest or is it in the desert, you know? And then behavior. And behavior is pretty important when it comes to certain birds because sometimes they all look alike and you can't tell them apart. And so behavior is important. So one of the things, I like this little thing because it's colorful and basically there's all kinds of neat bills. And basically it's just having the right tool for the job. I mean, so depending on what kind of bird it is, they're going to need a certain bill to be able to eat and to be able to, you know, build nests and get their, you know, whatever they need to do. They have a bill that goes with it. And again, I wasn't going to go through every single one, but here's basically I like this pointer. It's good. Basically, you know, it's pretty self-explanatory. They're going to need a certain bill for what they're doing. You know, if they're probing deep into the sand or, you know, if they're going to fish, they're going to need a spear of some sort. If they're going to chisel wood, the woodpecker needs that. So it's nice to see they're also diversified and they all have their tools for the job. So behavior, I always think to myself, the behavior is so interesting to me because, you know, like, what are these birds doing? And that kind of tells you a lot about what they are too. So, you know, this one obviously is catching some insects, probably bringing it back to the nest. This, cool, right? This was in the Spring Creek Nature Trail. It's got a little, looks like a bird, unfortunately, but, you know, birds are prey for other birds. So he's bringing, or she's bringing that to the nest. This one's nest building. This, you'll see small birds chasing larger birds. So that's a hawk chasing an eagle. I mean, you think, who's gonna chase a bald eagle, right? It's like kind of a king of the sky there, but like, you know, you'll get little birds chasing them. You'll see a lot of times, I don't know if you guys ever see like crows chasing a hawk or, especially if you hear, like if you're out there and you hear like a bunch of blue jays or crows making a racket, I always look, because I go, okay, they're either mobbing a hawk or they're an owl or something, because they're trying to keep that predator away from their nest and their territory. So they're real, you know, territorial. Speaking of territorial, the hummingbirds, if you guys have ever had hummingbird feeders or anything and have seen hummingbirds, they are so territorial. They just want to protect their, you know, their food source. I mean, whether it's even at a feeder or even just in the garden, I've seen them fight each other to almost the death. Like I saw one like kind of pummel, those little feet went on top of somebody and pummeled them. He was pummeling them with his feet. And sometimes they'll like dive bomb and, you know, they'll fight each other right down to the ground. You see them and they'll go down to the ground. They're like swords with their bills. It's amazing. So you got that. This is cool. This is a squabble between the red-headed woodpecker and the red-bellied. They're fighting over that nest cavity. Somebody's gonna win. Who do you think will win? What do you think? You think?
Maybe. I don't know, they're winning our house against the Blue Jays.
Yes,
Let's do it.
they will do that. Typically the red, like even at a feeder, I don't know if you have a sewer feeder or something like that, typically the red-headed kind of rules. They sort of like are the, you know, kingpin sort of, and then comes maybe the red belly, and then comes, well, pileated, of course, with the bigger, usually it's size, but sometimes it's just the fiercity, but these two are battling it out. And usually this one does win over, but it just depends, I guess. Anyway, this guy, very acrobatic, little orange-crowned warbler. You don't usually see the orange crown, but they're very acrobatic. Bluebirds feeding the young. That was at my nest box. And then this little, he's like got a little nut between his feet, the blue jay, and he's cracking that nut open. Oh, okay, and last but not least, this one, which is cool. Red-shouldered hawk caught a squirrel. This is in my backyard. And he caught that squirrel and he was holding him there. And I was watching him and I'm thinking to myself, I guess he's gonna like kind of just squash him to death until the thing stops breathing. I'm thinking that's probably what's gonna happen because he's gonna just, you know, and he must have moved his foot. The squirrel got lucky and the squirrel just took off. And I'm like, dude, you were lucky because this guy, he was so lucky to get away, really. It was just amazing because to watch that. And so I really thought that squirrel was a goner. So foraging is one method that birds use. And I look at these because these are really cool because they all have their own sort of method of feeding. You know, you've got the heron that spears its fish. Basically, a lot of the herons and the egrets, great blue heron, great egret, they walk slowly, really slowly, very slowly, and they just kind of stalk and then they spear. These are white tricolored herons. I don't know if you've ever seen them, and I would imitate them, but I got a bad leg right now, but they like, literally like, they kind of run around, they run around like nuts, like, oh, there's a fish here, there's a fish here. They run around and they're crazy, right? And then they do, I don't know if you've ever seen the video, like nighttime, daytime, they've done that, where they take their feathers and they try to kind of create, so they can see into the water, they create like a shadow. They're funny to watch. These guys, green herons, they kind of crouch low, they stay real low to the ground, and they're all sneaky. And then, so these are white ibises, and then there's some yellow-footed. They're not called yellow-footed, but they're snowy egrets. And the snowy egrets, if you've ever watched them, you know, take a minute to watch them. They'll sit there and they will pat the ground like this with their foot. And what they're doing is they're making the invertebrates come up from the bottom so that they could then get them. But the funny thing is sometimes you'll see a bunch of snowies and then you'll see a great egret standing there and they're thinking, oh, he's kind of like shepherding them. No, he's just waiting for them to do all the work so that he can grab the stuff that comes up. So, and then these are very, what do you call, you guys know what they are? Wilson's snipe, yeah. They have those bills that probe deeply into the mud to grab things, same with yellow legs. And then the spoonbills basically swish their bills side to side and they kind of sift through the water and pick up different vertebrates and things. So reproduction, interestingly, there's some birds that mate for life. Monogamy. Some birds mate for life. So these are some white-fronted parrots feeding each other, and they're so sweet. They preen each other, and they're together. And then other birds that mate for life are bald eagles, barn owls, most swans and geese mate for life, mourning doves, black vultures. So some of them just have that one partner for life until they die. If they die off, of course, they find another one. Black-bellied whistling ducks mate for life. And then there's others that are polygamous, and those are like house wren, spotted sandpipers, some kind of shorebirds and rails, like red-winged blackbirds. And what they'll do is like, they'll mate with different people because the different people, not people. Please, that'd be terrible. But they will mate with other birds because they want to make sure that they're going to, pass on the genes, and they want to be sure that they're going to have a good, clutch and brood, and that they will, carry on. And so they don't want to make any mistakes, and they're not going to just stay with one. And then there's others that are really promiscuous, like the mallards. These are mallards, but they will mate with mottled ducks. And I always, when they mate, I call them mallards because they're like mallards and mottled. That's my own name for them, is mallard, because they're just so funny. They don't care. They'll just mate. And that's why you see a lot of ducks like that are kind of mash up ducks. Like they're mallard, but they call them domestic mallard because they're just like a mixture, but they're really pretty, but they're kind of a mixture of anything. So they're very promiscuous. So some of the courtship that you see is really interesting. Like these are cedar waxwings, and they're basically feeding each other. You'll see like cardinals do it. A lot of birds do feed each other. The male will feed the female, give her, a token gift and type of thing to try to win her over. But these are interesting. I took these. These are the great blue herons. These are great egrets, and these are little blue herons. And they basically were walking in sync, and they do this and they march. Like they basically hold their neck up really high, and then they walk together in sync. And it was just the coolest thing to see them, and they're doing this. It is just so fun to watch. And so those, I got to see them doing that in action. That was pretty neat. And birds all have their ways of doing it. So I wanted to show you this, not so much the slide, but is there a way for me to click on the link and then it'll take us to a little YouTube video real quick? It's a 2-minute video.
I think you can use the laptop.
Okay. Because this is quite cute. I just thought I'd show you this. The courtship displays. Let's see if it comes up. Oh, it's okay. It's coming up on here. Okay.
There's 2 screens
Too bad.
activated.
It's quite funny.
I think I can get it.
It's really cute. I mean, I don't want to mess anything up, but, oh, okay. So they were doing the head pump. Yeah, they're doing like the head pump. Like sometimes you'll see mallards, they might be resting most of the time, but they'll be like doing this head pump thing. And that's basically how they court. It is quite amusing, really. So here's some of the tail. Thank you. The tail lift and the head pump, and this one, they call it the push and reach. I just thought this was cute, but the next one I think is, you'll like the next one. Let's see. The head throw. That cracks me up. I mean, if you want to attract a mate, if you could throw your head back like that, I mean, come on. I mean, who wouldn't be impressed by that, right? Oh, gosh. It's so cute. It's funny. And a lot of times too, they'll stand up and Oh, yeah, then they do the head throw kick. They also do a little kick. Very cute. The salute curtsy by the McVanders. It's like. It's funny. I love the head throw. Yeah, right? It's like, they do anything to try to win over that mate, you know? A lot of times you'll see them flapping their feathers and like, I'm the man, you know? And so. Yeah, that's about it. Yeah, I just thought that was fun, if you've ever seen anything like that. Yeah, thank you very much. So, let's see. Oh, this is just a sleeping green-winged teal, and I just thought, you know, when you see these birds up close, I mean, most of all, it's a duck, but look at the feathers, look at how beautiful. They're beautiful. I mean, they are. So that's what, I just threw that in there because they're beautiful, colors and everything. So we asked, why do birds live in different places? Well, mainly because it meets their needs for resources. They have to have food sources for water for food. So the wetlands provide the insects and aquatic plants and things for the waterfowl. And then you've got forests that offer seeds, fruits, insects for things like woodpeckers and thrushes. They require suitable shelter and nesting sites, raise their young, and they want to protect themselves from predators. So various habitats such as forests, grasslands, cliffs, wetlands, they offer different types of nesting opportunities. And then also favorable climate and temperature during different seasons. They don't want to be stuck in some place that's freezing, and, you know, usually they want some nice warm weather. That's why they migrate. We'll talk about migration in a minute. Suitable breeding grounds, presence of waterfowl, again, for waterfowl, open spaces for ground nesting birds like plovers, tree cavities for woodpeckers and owls. This guy's a little, whoops, that guy was a little burrowing owl. Cool, right? And again, he found his own little spot there, and you see him, he's adorable, right? This little owl, so cute. And that's where he lives. I took these pictures in Guadalupe State Park just like a couple weeks ago. Actually, it was like April. And these are cliff swallows. And I don't know if you could see, but like they actually are filling up their bills with mud. You see that? They have all that, they're all, and there's a whole bunch of, like, this is just a few that I zoomed in on, but they all come down and they flap and they fill up their bills with mud. It's the cutest thing to watch. And then they go take it back to their holes in some cliff, and they build their nest. So they're bringing them in, and then that's what they're doing there, which again was really fun to watch. So again, nesting opportunities. This is the cliff that they were bringing them into. It's pretty safe for them because, you know, predators have a hard time getting to that wall and going into those little holes. So that's where they were. This is actually it's a rookery right near, down the street from the Spring Creek, Dr. Ann Snyder Drive. There's a rookery there, and there's a lot of cattle egret there right now nesting. So rookeries are great because, you know, safety in numbers, plus they're on a little island, so, you know, there's no mammalian predators that can get to them. You know, they're nice and safe on the island. So that's a great place for them to build their nest.
Is that the one right on the Creekside Forest that they go behind the people's houses too? They go back and forth on the island?
Yes, yeah. You go down, that's right, Spring Creek Nature Trip, Creekside Park.
Yeah.
On the right-hand side, yeah, there's a little development, and then there's this little pond, and there's the rookery, and it's amazing, and then we're going backwards. So if you want to see like cattle egret, gray egret, all these nice nesting birds.
Did they end up destroying the tree? Because it looks pretty bad right now.
That's it.
Yeah.
Trees look like they're dying.
They look like they're dying from all the food.
Oh, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
So I heard from a neighbor that lives not far from the rookery, that one of his neighbors was complaining to him and asking if he thought she could get the township to remove the birds so they wouldn't fly over the top of her house and poop on her house or poop on her roof. That's what she was upset about.
People, right? I mean, it's sad, isn't it? It's like, oh, I know. They need to come to this class to take a Texas Bass and Naturals class, or they need to be educated. Anyway, yeah, that's sad. This is a downy woodpecker in my tree, in my backyard right now. They built a nest, first they built the nest cavity, we were finding wood all over our patio table. Oh my goodness. You know, I was like, yes. And so this little woodpecker, it's amazing. I didn't know how many they have. Well, one fledged the other day. They're making a lot of noise. One fledged, and then I've been watching it like every day, and then another one fledged. And there's another one in there that they're feeding. They keep bringing food in. So I know there's at least 3, which is really nice. So that's nice to know. So that's the mama right there. But they both work hard, mom and daddy. This little killdeer just sitting there, and the killdeer is just like hunkered down in his little nest, trying to hope that you don't see him. And they're having young right now too. Varied dietary needs. Each bird has its own needs for different types of food. Obviously, the funny thing is these cedar waxwings, yeah. There's also Bohemian waxwings, but we don't get them that much. They're kind of like in the south. But these cedar waxwings, they'll eat berries, and sometimes like at the end of the fall when the berries get sort of, you know how they get sort of like, they turn into alcohol? What do you call that? They ferment. That's it, and they ferment. They ferment, and so they'll just keep eating, and they literally get drunk. And I know it sounds funny, but like, they'll fly into things. It's kind of sad because they'll have collisions, they'll fly into things, they'll pull up their perches. I mean, they literally get drunk. And if you've ever seen cedar waxwings, like in your yard, if you have berry bush of any kind, whether it's those little yopon berries, where they'll come in like locusts, like a group of them will come in and they'll wipe them out in like one day. It's amazing, you know, and the robins will too sometimes join them, you know. So, but yeah, and this one's got a little crawfish. This is a little blue heron, and he got himself a little crawfish. And then of course the cormorants with their fish. It's amazing because I've seen cormorants and gray egrets eat fish that are so big, they're like huge, and they'll be like, trying to swallow this thing whole. It's funny to watch them because they're trying to like get this thing down their gullet, and then I've seen it where it's actually like wiggling, like it's still in their neck, like wiggling on the way down. It's amazing. But anyway, so yeah, they all have varied needs. Some are seed eaters. You know, as you can tell, the bill for cracking seeds and cardinals. This is a green jay seed eater. They have to crack those bills. And then there's other birds that need to, like bluebirds are insectivores, and they like to probe for worms and bugs and things like that.
Jojo, what's the bottom right one?
Oh, a tern.
No, the bottom.
Oh, I'm sorry, green jay. We don't see them here much. They're in the hill country. They're more like sort of west of here. Pretty bird, aren't they? Gorgeous, right? They're so pretty. What bird don't we like? So why is bird diversity so important? Well, all these reasons. So first of all, they're important to us as humans. They benefit us because they act as pollinators and seed dispersers for many plants that are valuable to us. So for trees, for building materials, food, obviously, fruit, plant-based medicines. So they benefit us as humans. They regulate pests and diseases by eating insects and invertebrates. And by the way, when these things like grosbeaks, finches, sparrows, they can't process all those seeds that they consume. So they pass them through their digestive system, and sometimes they're miles away. So seed dispersing, that's great, because now you got more plants to propagate, and you need that, you know, for a good ecosystem. So we can, you know, that's one benefit for that. And then they, like I said, they regulate the diseases by eating the insects and the vertebrates, invertebrates that we don't want. Hummingbirds and orioles and things like that, they also pollinate flowers and plants. Scavengers, I'm going to just click this forward for a minute. Scavengers clean up the things that we don't want, right? So I took this too, and it was really close. They're like nature's janitors, you know, because people think, oh, same thing, right? Oh, they're making a mess on my whatever. And I guess the best thing to do is just kind of try to get them to not go in your house. But we need them. They're really important because they're going to clean up the messes and the carcasses and the dead vermin and things like that. So only a face some mother could love, because they are kind of ugly, but they're cute in their own way, just sort of like armadillos. They're cute, I think. Opossums. I mean, people think they're ugly. I don't know. They're all cute in their own way, I think. They all belong here. Why did the vulture cross the road? Because the chicken didn't make it. I know. Okay, so, yeah. So, and ecotourism. So bird watching is at the heart of a vibrant ecotourism industry. It provides sustainable, nature-friendly jobs. If you think about it, you know, you've got tour directors and people that take, you know, people on trips. You got people that travel all over the world. I mean, basically, people are traveling worldwide to see these birds, you know, going to the Amazon and going to different places, and that's supporting economic growth. It's providing more business for, you know, to hotels and stores and restaurants and things like that, because, you know, it's bringing all these birders in, right? And, you know, when you think about it, festivals, like if you've gone, anybody go to a festival, birding festival? No birding festivals? Oh, well, if you have a chance, go to a birding festival, a lot of fun. But again, you know, it's bringing people in, you know, they have to eat and drink and have hotel rooms and whatever, and buy stuff, buy shirts and things like that. This guy, anybody know what he is, by the way? The bird on my shirt.
Poopy, isn't it?
Yes, yeah, we went to Hungary, and it's outside of Budapest. We were there for a biking trip, and I rented or hired a guide to take me around to a national park outside of Budapest, and got to see the hoopoo.
What are bird festivals? Are they like themed according to a specific bird, or is it like a regional thing?
So like every year, like each place, like for instance, there's a Cape May birding festival in New Jersey. There's an Alabama bird fest. There's like down here, they have like the Aransas whooping crane. So sometimes each festival will have, depending on the time of year, it might be a spring festival. So it's all spring migrants that come through, or it might be, yeah, like there's Feather Fest here in Galveston, right? And it's basically all birds. Usually it's just all birds, you know, and they have like tours and trips, like say, so in Cape May, I've gone to that one like almost every year. They'll have like boat excursions that you can go on the boat, so you can see like the birds that are out in the, you know, ocean, right?
Is that your favorite one that you've been to?
I do love that one. Yeah, I do. It's really good. Yeah, I've been to a lot of them, and they're all good in their own way, because, you know, each place gets its own set of birds at different times of the year, you know. And then there's always like, you know, there's going to be tours, and people will lead walks, and then they have talks. So they have things like this where you learn about, and you might learn about like warblers or sparrows or hawks, you know, and they'll just have one subject, or they'll have, and then they have, you know, all kinds of, you can buy stuff, you know, you can always buy stuff, earrings and shirts and bird things, binoculars. And matter of fact, I got a good discount on binoculars. If you go to these things, you can buy things, expensive things at a discount too, which is great, especially when you're talking about binoculars, you know, and scopes and things like that. So yeah, they're really, and they're fun. A great way to meet people, good way to like network with other birders and learn about different places and stuff like that. So yeah, they're a lot of fun. So I can give you some links. So yeah, so it's amazing for, you know, economic growth. And then of course we've got just the aesthetic beauty, you know, there's cultural, spiritual importance. I mean, they're like the voices of nature. Basically, they're just beautiful to have around, aren't they? I mean, this is a painted bunting. one of the most beautiful birds, most colorful birds in North America, really, because most of them are, you know, the Amazon and things like that. So we're lucky to have them. So birds' role in nature, they play an integral role in the ecosystem because they provide ecological balance. They're connected to countless organisms. They regulate the population of small animals that they eat. So, you know, they'll keep the population of mice and rodents down. So if you have a lot of mice or rats or something in your backyard, you know, they're going to help clear those out. Birds may be top predators on small islands. So some islands might not have many predators, but the birds are maybe some of the predators that they need to get rid of those other animals that are taking over that they don't want, the rats, especially rats that climb trees and take eggs out of nests. They're prey for other wildlife because everybody's got to eat. So, you know, you'll see like the Cooper's hawk by your bird feeders because, you know, it's a buffet right there for them. I always yell at them. I always go somewhere else, go find a mouse or something. Leave my birds alone. It doesn't work, but keystone species, woodpeckers in the forest, their strong bills, they chisel out nest cavities that are used by other birds and other mammals that depend on them, because a lot of birds don't, bluebirds, they can't make their own nest hole. You know, if you think about brown-headed nuthatches, like there's certain birds that will use that nest cavity. They can't make it themselves, but the woodpecker makes the hole and then other birds get to use it. And that's important too. And then also the decomposition of the dead trees ultimately helps to recycle all the nutrients back into the soil. And that's important. So it kind of gets them started. They usually try to chisel dead trees because it's easier to, you know, chisel a hole in a dead tree. So I always get arborists that come around to my house and they always say, like, do you want us to take that dead tree down? I'm like, no, because I've got some good dead trees that the birds love, like the woodpeckers come, like you saw that one, the downy, right? I had pileated coming. I had red-bellied woodpeckers build a nest. I have, you know, all these woodpeckers and things that come and they love it. And so why would I do that? And, you know, nature has a way of taking care of itself. Funny thing is when like those sweet gum trees, you know, they don't last very long, right? And a lot of the branches kind of fall off from the top. I don't know if you ever noticed, they kind of start to fall off. They die sort of early, don't they? They don't live that long, but they'll work their way down. So in other words, like the top part falls off and then some more falls off. And I have a tree that's probably like 6 foot tall now. And I'm just little by little, it's going, it's got holes in it. And little by little, it'll just go back into the soil. I don't need anybody taking it down. The birds are doing it, the insects are doing it. It's whole ecosystem is, it's wonderful. It's the way things work. So, do you guys want to take a break? Let's see. Right. These were pictures I took too, by the way, New Jersey. That was from New Jersey. This was, oh, shoot. Hit the wrong button. That's a juvenile bald eagle with the full moon. I got it like right next to, can you imagine? Like sometimes you want to get a certain picture, you can't. Well, that was lucky. So that was pretty neat. This is in Cape May in New Jersey, this lighthouse here. And then that was at the Spring Creek Nature Trail in the morning. Beautiful, right? It's so beautiful there. Who has not been to the Spring Creek Nature Trails? Not been. Oh, you gotta go. Okay, everybody else has been there? So you know, right? Okay, you know how beautiful it is. It's awesome. Okay, well, we're gonna get into the yearly migration cycle. So the year in a life of a bird. So basically, what does this year look like? We're going to go over it in more detail, but basically, in the winter, they're overwintering. They don't do much. There's a stationary period between fall and early spring where they just kind of hang out. And then in the spring, they migrate north and they go back to their breeding grounds. And then in the summer, they're breeding. And then in the fall, they come back south again and they go away from their breeding grounds. And that's usually in Texas between September and November. So I took this picture. This is snow geese and white-fronted geese in Anahuac last January. So, I mean, you could see how they'll just fill the sky. Isn't that amazing? So I had to put that in there. But basically, I know you can't read what it says, but basically, but why did they migrate. So basically, it's instinctive. It's instinctive and it's genetic. So they have this innate behavior, like a biological clock. Something goes off, and there's like some kind of a circadian rhythm. There's something inside them that says it triggers it, and this migratory behavior starts. They get kind of anxious, and they go, "We gotta go." And usually, now I have here that it's in response to day length and temperature changes, but usually it's day length. Once the day starts getting longer, they know, like in the spring, they know that it's time to go. So that's really what they go by. And the reason I'm saying that is, we'll get into it later, but like with climate change, like when temperatures change, it changes a lot of the greenery that happens when in their breeding grounds, and sometimes they will get there later. But we'll talk about that later. Let me talk about this right now. I don't want to get off track. So, but seasonal changes. So, birds escape the harsh winter in their northern breeding grounds. So, they're in the north, and then it starts getting pretty cold. And they do, when they come south, they seek milder temperature. And of course, there's going to be ample food sources because, once the seeds are gone, once the insects are gone, like if it starts getting cold, the insects, there's no more insects, there's no more seeds, so they have to go south. And so that's another reason. And then, of course, there's competition for resources because all these birds are going to be competing for the same thing. So they're all competing for the food, the nesting sites, the mates, opportunities, breeding opportunities, and they want to seek areas where the competition is less intense. So that is why. And then you go, well, where did they go? Okay, so there's 5 other primary flyways, and those are utilized by birds in Europe, Africa, Asia, and Australia. But for our purposes, we're doing North America. So basically, what they do is, okay, like as you can see from these arrows, so 4 of the American flyways meet up in this thin land bridge in Central America, right here. And usually the flyways follow natural land masses because that's where birds need to rest and feed along their journey. And most of the migrating birds get funneled through this corridor. So this is kind of a choke point. And then basically what happens is when they're coming, down or up, there is that central point, and it's a perfect hotspot for birders. So this is kind of an active map to show, so as you can see through the months, January to, this is, the colors kind of coincide with this. This is where they're going. So the scientists at the Cornell Lab of Ornithology, they've documented that these migratory movements of bird populations of spanning the entire year of 118 species throughout this Western hemisphere. And this is where they're going. It's amazing. When you think about the distances that they cover, they have different modes of migration. This is another picture I took. Look, the moon is down here. I know, I'm like an amateur photographer, but it's very exciting for me when I get these bird pictures and then there's the moon here too. Anyway, so diurnal, basically they rely on the visual cues, such as landmarks and the position of the sun and geological features like rivers, mountains, coastlines. So they're navigating and they're kind of using visual clues. Then there's the nocturnal, going at night. They use the celestial cues such as the stars, the moon, and Earth's magnetic field for their navigation. Also going at night, sometimes it provides advantages because there's less predators and the cooler temperatures are better for them, and then there's less turbulent air currents. And then you've got your crepuscular migrants, which are active during just dawn and dusk. And they take advantage of both situations, low light conditions to minimize the predation risk. And then they also benefit from the cues of navigation, for being able to see. So basically what we were talking about, so like this Pacific Flyway, the Pacific Flyway, there's 4 different flyways here. So this Pacific Flyway, they tend to follow the Pacific coast. And the birds could travel as far as North America, north as Alaska, all the way down to the tip of South America. And then the Atlantic Flyway basically compels the birds to hang onto the coast. And that also includes some of these birds that go right across the Gulf. The Mississippi flyway follows basically the path of the Mississippi River. And because it's got a lack of mountains, it also tends to funnel those birds down because of that. Central flyway that follows the edge of the Rocky Mountains, and it goes all the way up to Canada. Let's see. So Texas is important. It's in the path of the two principal flyways, the Central and the Mississippi. And about 300 species are documented as migrating through Texas. That's why everybody wants to come to Texas through migration periods, because there's so many birds that come, because what they're basically doing is, you know, if we go back to this map real quick, this here, when they're coming from South America, there's this Yucatan Peninsula, and then they obviously stop and rest before going over to the Gulf. And when they get here, they're exhausted. I mean, they've just traveled, some of them nonstop. Well, they are nonstop. I mean, some of them have actually gone on boats. Like if there's boats, they've like rested on boats. So you'll see like pictures of these little birds just resting on the hull of the boat or whatever. And they will basically be so exhausted. So if you've ever heard the term like fallout, like people go, oh, birders say there's a fallout. Well, basically it's the birds falling out of the sky. They are so exhausted. They literally just fall out of the sky and they just flop and they're exhausted. They want to eat, they need to refuel and rest. So Texas is important because not only does it provide wintering habitats for the migrants from the north, it also provides summer nesting habitat for species that come from the south. So these stopover sites are the sites that the birds really, really need, and that's the upper Texas coast, and it's critically important. So we've got wetlands, beaches, marshes as feeding and resting nesting sites, and these are so important, and these are some of the places that most birders will go. Bolivar Flats, Aransas National Wildlife, High Island, Anahuac, state parks along the Gulf Coast. These are wood storks, by the way. So Texas is a super, super important place for these birds because this is where they need to rest both ways. Because if they're going south before they go across the Gulf, they're going to rest and refuel and get fat and eat and get their reserves up before they make that journey, you know, going south to South America. And of course, when they come back, that's when people really love to see them because they're coming north to their breeding grounds and they're in their breeding plumage. And so they look really nice. And that's when birders love to see all these spring birds, migrants. So Texas is one of the most biodiverse coastlines. It stretches over 600 miles and it provides a rich ecoregion of stopover sites, as we were saying, for millions of these migratory songbirds and long distance migrants. However, it does suffer from pollution from Texas river systems that across the state, because a lot of these rivers that are coming through Texas are coming down and then they're emptying into the Gulf. So a lot of pollution, unfortunately, comes with that. So small coastal islands are important because they provide wintering grounds and nesting opportunities in the spring. And then again, rookeries get formed because it's an island and there's less predators. But with sea level rise, erosion, tropical storms, it's all causing these islands to disappear. And so unfortunately, you know, people love to be on the coast. We love to build our houses on the coast and have coastal houses, but unfortunately the birds need to be there too. So, you know, it gets crowded building homes, commercial building, stores, more concrete, more parking lots, and then it's replacing the critical habitat that the birds need for stopover. And you guys as naturalists, you know how important that is. Coastlines that are crowded with people, boats, construction, it causes problems for beach nesting birds, especially like Arctic terns that fly really far. They need to find some nice, quiet, secluded spots to raise their chicks. And unfortunately, they don't have that because, you know, it's getting so crowded. So long distance migrants. The Arctic tern. The Arctic tern is the longest migrator. It migrates, believe it or not, from Arctic to Antarctic and back again, a round trip of 44,300 miles a year. Can you imagine that? It is incredible. The bar-tailed godwits, they go from Alaska to New Zealand nonstop, 6,800 miles without rest. So they don't even stop. They go that entire distance. It's crazy. The Swainson hawk, North America, South America, about 12,000 miles round trip a year. The smallest bird that does the migration is the calliope hummingbird. They go 5,000 miles round trip every year. Unbelievable. Ruby-throated hummingbirds, which we see a lot around here. North America, Central America, crossing the Gulf, nonstop flight for up to 500 miles. I mean, can you imagine, like, when we go somewhere, we have our stuff, we pack our cars, we got our coolers, we got food, we got our clothes, we got everything we're gonna need. These little tiny birds feed. I mean, if you think about it, right before they leave, or, you know, they have to eat, they eat and they fuel up and fuel up, just their own wing power, their own power are going, 500 miles. We don't even do that in a car in a day. I mean, we have to rest, we have to eat, we've got to do all these things, right? These little birds are doing it by themselves. Like, it's nothing short of a miracle, really. I mean, it's crazy, isn't it? It's like hard to fathom. I mean, I tell my husband about that. I go, this is amazing. And he's like, yeah. I'm like, but you don't understand. You don't like it's a little bird and it's doing it. And yep. Anyway, it's hard to get your head around it, really. Now, some birds, they're smart. They just migrate short distance. So American robins, red-winged blackbirds, song sparrows, they might just migrate within the US and some just kind of hang out. So with that, we have a lot of winter residents here. So some of these winter residents, you guys, again, let's see if you recognize any. I mean, what's this? I'm gonna do it really quick, just yell out. What kind? Chipping sparrow. Loggerhead shrike, yep, this one's easy. Yeah. I'm pointing to the little hints. Ruby crowned kinglet, yeah. This one might be harder.
American goldfinch.
Yes, yep, he's not quite in his breeding plumage. Yeah, yep, and they don't always look alike, if you notice. A lot of yellow rumps look different. Yeah. Who's getting all these right?
She's not in the class.
Yeah, right? Come on, Chris, people, wake up. This is what about that?
Yellow.
Yes.
Rump.
You guys know this one, right? Sings. Song sparrow. How about this one? Yeah. Think marshy area. Yeah. These are goldfinch, and there's a couple thrown in for good measure, some little sparrows chitting. That was the winter that we had that snow, and I was putting the feed out for the birds. We got to help them. So, and then in the spring, we get a lot of these visitors, and I don't know, you might recognize some of them. Yeah. How about this? Wood thrush, indigo bunting, Baltimore oriole, this guy. Yeah. How about this one? Rufus hummingbird. We saw him before. Well, if he has a little yellow right here, he'd be a Savannah sparrow. This guy, great crested flycatcher, there's a little tree creeper. He's got spectacles, blue-headed vireo. I know that one's a tough one, isn't it? Orange crown warbler, rose-breasted grosbeak, and oriole. So those are some birds that we're going to see. I have to show you this one because this was last year. This year I got my jelly ready and everything. These are the Baltimore orioles. I had 6 pairs of Baltimore orioles come. Look, little downy woodpecker. This is a rose-breasted grosbeak.
What jelly, I don't want to sideline, but what jelly?
Yeah, no, grape. They like grape preserves, organic, You can't have the stuff with the corn syrup in it. No, 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 not the fake stuff. It's got to be real grapes. It's true. And they love it. And last year I went through a jar and a half, 2 jars, 1 big jar and 1 small jar of grape jelly and oranges. They love oranges and they love grape jelly.
Well, they're in my yard, but they didn't, like, at the Merlin app, I do them, but I didn't have anything else for them.
Yeah, you got to put stuff out. They'll come. Oh my gosh, they'll eat you out of house and home. That's what they did to me. It was great. So how are the birds monitored? So through the years, there's been just difference of changes and tracking. So it all started, I'm not going to go through all these one by one, but isn't he cute? Oops. Oh, darn it. I keep hitting the wrong button. Yeah. This little guy, he was so cute. He's like looking out over the tree while I was birding. Anyway, we've gone from metal bands, telescopes. At one time, they used to, in the 1940s, they used to actually just count birds in the night sky. Radio transmitters, satellite tags, passive integrated transponders, global location, GPS loggers, electronic and radio transmission. So all through the years, there's been different things, banding. Now banding is still done, nano tags and geolocators. There's more tiny radio transmitters, so they're smaller and they're just easier for the birds. Radar has always been around, but now it's more sophisticated. There's more sophisticated algorithms and more computing power, so the radar is a lot better. And citizen science projects, eBird app. Who uses the eBird app? Quite a few people. Okay, that's good. Who doesn't? And wants to? Yeah. Well, we'll get you doing it because it's an awesome app. So we got to talk about Cornell Lab because Birdcast is a part of Cornell Lab of Ornithology. You can go to their website. It has loads of information, and basically what they do is they have bird migration forecast maps. So they make predictions as far as monitoring the migration, so scientists can learn like when the birds are, where they're breeding, when they're coming, are the numbers increasing, are the numbers decreasing? So it's incredible information, and all the citizen science data is coming from citizen science, meaning you. So anybody with an eBird app that enters birds can enter this into the metadata of the world. This is a worldwide app right now that's going on where people can enter all data. Because, years ago, scientists used to go out with their big round things and discs and kind of try to listen. And it was hard, you get just a few people out there. Now it's like thousands and millions of people coming out to do this. So in real time, they have live migration maps, and you can see in real time the analysis of intensity of the bird migration as it's happening. It's amazing. And then you can subscribe if you want to local alerts. So the local alerts, you can subscribe to this and say, hey, I want to know when the birds are coming. So it'll show you migration in live time, and it'll tell you when they're going to happen. And then there's a migration dashboard that explores nightly data. And these are amazing because, again, it shows you where they're going. So for instance, on Monday, April 29th, I led the bird walk at Spring Creek Nature Trail. We had 76 species at Creekside.
Whoa.
And there was only 3 of us on the walk. 3 of us, so 76 different species, and a lot of them were warblers. It was really amazing. And I didn't even know that because I didn't check this. So the funny thing is, this is the night of April 30th. I checked it after, and funny, they show you, let's see, what they do is they show you like the expected nocturnal migrants, like who's going to be coming. Well, I didn't see that until the next day. I forgot to check it. But when I checked it, I was like, oh my gosh, this is so right on the money. This is exactly what we saw. We saw the rose-breasted grosbeak, the magnolia warbler, the yellow-billed cuckoo, the chat, the national warbler, the American redstart, the chestnut. So we saw all those birds. And so it's amazing because you can use it as a tool to kind of give you an idea of what's coming. It tells you what happened across the night. That night, 3 million, May 6th, on May 6th, 3,785,800 birds crossed over Montgomery County. Can you imagine? So that's how many birds were flying. And people go, well, how high did they fly? Well, they fly up to 10,000 feet above the ground. Sometimes even, you can see it even goes up to 30,000 feet. So they're pretty high up. That's why they say, you know, please dim your lights at night, especially during migration. If you have lights pointing upward, and we'll talk about that more after, about lights. But this is what birds have to deal with. They have to cope with changes in their ecosystem. So for instance, competition, food, nesting materials, mates, territories. They have to defend their territory. And the way they do that a lot of times is they display threats, or they advertise their presence by, you know, vocally. Predation. They have to worry about predation. Mobbing, alarm calls they use to tell each other. Mobbing is where you'll see the crows going after the hawks, or, you know, other birds. So they have to kind of keep those predators away. Injury display, kill deer sometimes will feign an injury so that they kind of get you away from their nest, so that you're not going to like look at their babies or their nesting. They'll draw your attention over here, you know, so they feign a display so they could pretend that they're hurt. Flocks. So flocks, you know, again, presence, it's kind of safety in numbers. Does anybody know what a moving flock of birds is? You know how when you see a flock and they're all moving together? Do you guys know what it's called?
Murmuration.
Yep, a murmuration. Yep, that's it. Very good. I know, I learned that and I was like, oh, I didn't know that before, but yeah, murmur. Fish do it too, you know. Let's see. So we were saying flocks, cavity nesting, that's, you know, to obviously helpful. Parasites and diseases, mites, pathogens, viruses. I mean, a lot of finches, a lot of small finches and things. I don't know if you remember, there was an outbreak of a virus. It was caused by the salmonella virus. I don't know if you remember, but like if you have bird feeders, finches and pine siskins were dying, and it was because of this virus. And of course they give it to each other because they're passing it on, because they're eating from the same feeder and the viruses are spreading. So they have to worry about that. Then there's things like lice and fleas and mites. So like in the nest alone, if we monitor bluebirds, and we'll talk about that after too, but like if you monitor nests, a lot of times there's parasites. Unfortunately, in certain areas, there's parasites that will get into the nest, and then it's terrible. They'll lay the eggs in the babies, like in the nestlings, and then the eggs will hatch and eat their way out of the baby. So they might eat from the eyes or the brain, and they kill the babies. So it's, yeah, so they have to worry about that kind of stuff. Or we have to worry about it. I don't know, they worry about it, but habitat alteration, urbanization causes fragmented habitat. So that's pretty self-explanatory too. Food availability. During migration, they have to make sure that they find food. Seasonal changes in the diet, like we were saying, how, you know, things die off, insects die off. There's not as many seeds and things for them to eat. Some birds hoard or cache. I might see this, sometimes I'll put out food and I actually see the birds, crows do it. They'll sit there and they'll like do a little thing and then they hide the food for later. It's really cute to watch them do that. But a lot of birds do that, and you know, woodpeckers will cache seeds away for later. But of course, the more they're caching, then there's less seeds and things for other birds because they're hoarding them. So that is one thing. Let's see. Oh, territorial behavior. You know, they all obviously claim their territory. Scavenging. So when you think about the scavengers, like sometimes you think about, say, oh, an eagle or a hawk will find a dead carcass. And now eagles normally want fresh fish, but you know, in times when it's lean, they might say, well, you know, there's a dead carcass here. What the heck? I might as well eat this freshly killed deer. Well, maybe there's a deer carcass there because a hunter shot it, took what he wanted or whatever, and then left the carcass there. Well, if the hunter's using buckshot and the buckshot has lead in it, then that lead will go into the flesh, and then the bird will eat that flesh and will get lead poisoning. And lead poisoning is a terrible, terrible way for birds to die. It's a slow, awful death. So, you know, we're trying to outlaw lead. So if you know anybody that shoots and hunts, please ask them to not use lead in their buckshot or whatever it is that they're using, because that's what will happen. So, let's see. I'm putting some people to sleep here. Okay, temperature changes. Birds do have a way to actually regulate their body temperature. But if you remember back in like 2021, we had that deep freeze, Uri, right? So a lot of birds perished. So, not every bird could stand the cold, and maybe they're just not in a position to leave at that point, so those are the things that I have to worry about. Wow. Okay. So I'm looking at the clock and I'm thinking, wow, we have a lot of more time left, but we could also take another break. But let me just tell you a little bit about this. Should we take a break? What do you guys feel? Do a little more and then take a break? All right, we'll just cover a little more. All right. So basically 2.9 billion birds they're gone in 50 years. So basically since the year 1500, humans wiped out about 182 of the bird species. And 1,200 bird species are likely to go extinct in the coming decades. So I don't want to end this in doom and gloom, but it is something that we need to talk about. Basically, maybe it is a good time to take a break and then we'll go back to it. I don't know, I'm just thinking. But if you don't need a break, we don't have to take a break. Okay, so basically we have to talk about this because, increased population, obviously humans, cats, destruction of habitat, invasive plants, bird trafficking and egg collecting, pollution, fertilizers that impact native plants, pesticides and herbicides, collisions, light pollution, which disorients the birds, climate change, and global warming. So declining birds. Grassland birds, 720 million birds we've lost since 1970. That's pretty staggering. I mean, 3 and 4 eastern meadowlarks have been lost since 1970. So I know some people maybe haven't been born then, but like I was around and I remember seeing certain birds, and now we're not seeing as many. Boreal forest birds, evening grosbeaks, 9 out of 10 are lost. That's a lot. And then migratory birds such as Baltimore orioles, we've lost 2.5 billion birds since 1970. Sad. Eastern forest bird, wood thrushes, 6 and 10, aerial insectivores like barn swallows, 2 and 5. So we are losing our birds, and a lot of them, the losses are within like common bird families that we're used to seeing around, like so some of these purple finch in the finch family, the blackbird family, the lark family, warblers, sparrows. Basically those colored dots represent the portion of the population still living, and then the black dots are the birds that we lost since 1970. So for instance, like the red-winged blackbird, you think, well, that's a really common bird. And it is, and there's a lot. And like there's estimates from studies that say that there's probably about 170 million red-winged blackbirds around today. But just 50 years ago, there were more than 260 million. So that's like a third of the entire population that has eroded in just half of a century. So that's pretty.
You still see them on the Ann Snyder ponds.
Yeah, yeah.
They're in Creekside on our pond.
Yes.
About 4 years ago, maybe 6 years ago, they came in and got rid of all those cattails all around there, and we don't see them anymore in the neighborhood.
Yep.
I mean,
Exactly. Because that's where they breed. Red-winged blackbirds breed in those cattails.
Yeah.
Because for them, that was a safe place, because predators, it's a little wet, they kind of go on those little like clumps of grass and stuff. It's safe, you can't see, because when you see one, it disappears into the reeds, you don't see it anymore. So predators, they're out in the marshy areas, animals and things can't get them, but once those areas are gone, then that's it. Where are they going to go? And that's what's happening with a lot of these birds, is they're just losing their habitat. It's like if we keep cutting down the trees and we keep doing everything we're doing, building concrete and everything, it's taking away that habitat that they need. I noticed myself, like since I've lived here Well, I moved here in 2015, right? In our backyard, we have woods. And in the woods, I used to hear a wood thrush every spring. And wood thrushes, I don't know if you've heard wood thrushes, they have this like flute-like song. It's beautiful. And I used to hear this wood thrush like every year. I don't hear it anymore. You know why? There's a building development. They built a bunch of houses. And I realize, I'm part of the problem. I moved here. I had to have a house. We all have to live somewhere. But unfortunately, that's the thing. When habitat gets cut up, then too, they need to have certain birds need large areas too. They can't just breed in one little area. It's like you can't have a lot of territory is a certain area, but then they need to go far and mix. You can't have like inbreeding, it's not good. But yeah, so there's a lot of birds lost because of habitat change and loss. And so one of the things that we were talking about, light pollution, it's dangerous to migrating birds especially because look, if they're cruising at 200 to 4,000 feet and then songbirds 500 to 2,500 feet, they're going to run into buildings, communication towers, wind turbines. I mean, when those blades are spinning, you can't see them. Sometimes they're spinning fast. They go right into them. Power lines, get them, they zap them, residences. So there's a lot of things that are killing all those figures, 6.6, this is what's killing the birds. I know, what do we do about it? Well, there are things to do, but that's one thing. Here's another thing, like, what's up? Single-use plastic. So we all have our reusable water bottles. That's good to see. I'm glad to see that. That's great. Really, because in 1960s, they said scientists have said 5% of birds were found with plastic in their stomachs. In the 1980s, there was over 80%. And by 2050, they said about 99% is going to have seabirds are going to have plastic. They're going to be ingesting plastic and have it in their stomach. So surface feeding birds are really susceptible because they mistake the debris as prey. And the way that this affects juveniles, too young to hunt on their own, they can't go hunt. So the adults will bring food back. Well, they mistake the plastic as food. They bring it back to the poor little nestlings, and the nestlings eat it. And of course, they're not gonna, they're not gonna get any nutrition, because basically the plastic's gonna reduce the volume of the stomach, and it leads to starvation because they're not getting any nutrition. So again, it's very sad. And diving seabirds such as puffins and things like that, they've been found with plastic in their stomachs. And most of the seabirds that do survive to adulthood are either smaller, or they have shorter wings and shorter bills, or they have smaller body mass, and they're just not going to be able to compete. And so, survival of the fittest, and a lot of them just don't make it. So some don't even make it to adulthood. So, and also some birds like albatross, they eat fish eggs. And when fish eggs lay eggs, they'll lay it on like a piece of debris that's floating. And so unfortunately, they'll eat the eggs, but then they'll eat the plastic too, because they think that it's food. And so, it's going everywhere. That's the trouble. So let's, as we try to keep our plastic use down, it's funny because I still know, I know birders and people that are really into nature and everything, and they're still using single-use plastic, and it's kind of like, I know it's convenient, but I guess we have to make concessions somehow, right? Pesticides, so pesticides and neonics. So neonics are they are what goes into the plant and genetically modifies the plant so that the plant is not attractive to insects. So a lot of, and I should say, when you go to buy plants, you're better off buying natives, of course, because natives, will keep the ecosystem in balance. But basically, we've got there's about 1 billion pounds of conventional pesticides that are sprayed and scattered each year in the US. So it's going to poison the birds when the granules hit the coated berries and the seeds and things like that, and then the birds ingest them. It's going to kill off the insects and the other invertebrates, because that's crucial to the birds. And of course, they feed their young, right? Basically, it eliminates a lot of the plants that are necessary for the bird to survive. a lot of this stuff bioaccumulates in fish, mammals, other prey, and then eventually ends up into raptors because the raptors are gonna eat the prey. And basically, then it also thins eggshells and reduces chick weight. So the spraying of the pesticides is bad enough, because again, it's all connected. Bees, they pick up the neonics from pollen and nectar, so that's why a lot of the bees are dying off. And so, of course, we need those to propagate, our crops. So it does affect us. People kind of think, oh, well, yeah, we're going to lose a few insects, we lose a few birds. It's not that. It's a whole ecosystem. We're all connected, And so this is going to kill off the bird supplies, and those neonics are bad because they are, again, built into the plant, into the genetics, and they will cause them to be no food, they're just no good. And I think a lot of the home, what I should say, not department stores, like home garden centers, like certain garden centers will have neonics. So sometimes they'll have a label that'll say that it has neonics or not, like they call them neonicotinoids. Yeah. And so if you see that, please avoid those, because those are the ones that you just don't want to use. They're just not good for the environment. But you will find them. So you have to kind of look for native plants, because what we can do, our role in preserving this natural balance, is to do things like bird-friendly gardening. So in the fall, how do we help them? We could leave the stalks and flowers that died back from the frost, because that leaf litter, will provide seed cover. It provides places for the invertebrates and the eggs and dormant insects to overwinter. It also conserves moisture. Stalks and flowers, that's right, we'll leave those. Dead snags, branches, twigs, as long as they're not posing hazard to people or structures. Like I was saying about that tree that's just coming down little by little by itself. I leave it there because it's going to provide perches for birds, because the birds need perches. So like hawks and birds that are preying on things need a good view. Other birds need a good view of, what are they going to try to eat? They're going to try to get a good view for up there from competitors or food, depending, right? And then you got like wood-boring insects, and that's good because then, the woodpeckers and things, this guy, that downy woodpecker, that's that nest cavity I was telling you about. And he made that nest cavity. And so if I took down that tree, he wouldn't be there, So, and I like having him there. And he's got 3 babies right now. So that's pretty neat. Anyway, and then, again, like if it's big enough, it'll attract these other birds. It'll attract bluebirds. So we want to plant native plants and shrubs, berry bushes, because we want these birds to be able to have good things to eat and feed their chicks. Remove, if you could, invasive, non-native, or exotic plants that crowd out natives. People like exotic plants, but they just provide nothing. They're not providing any kind of nutrition or anything like that. And, all these other birds that come to eat are not going to have anything to eat because the insects aren't going to like them. The birds, it's a whole, we're all connected. And I think you guys realize that. That's why you're taking this course. So here's how we help them. So making windows safe. Sun catchers, like I have a sunroom that has a lot of windows. And of course I got my bird feeders out there and I could see all the birds and everything. So I put little, they'll sell clings that go on the window that you don't really see. If you don't well, I don't want things in my windows, but the birds will see them, but you don't really. They're kind of like, they'll see them. So they have clings, sometimes like sun catchers. I have sun catchers. I bought these cool looking little crystals that hang and then the sun shines on them. So I put stuff, if, people say, well, I don't want to draw my curtains. Of course, if you could, that's good. But, they see the reflection, the birds are going to collide into the window. So it's a good way to be able to, every window I have something in it. And you can make it really interesting. I have some plants that hang. I've got some batiks that I got when I was in Africa, little small batiks. So I got some stuff from Malaysia. So when I go somewhere, I bring back a little thing and I have like the sun catchers and stuff like that. Makes the windows look nice and the birds could at least see the window. Because sometimes they're gonna fly into the window anyway. But anyway, keep cats indoors. I know there's a lot of, feral cats kill, believe it or not, cats kill 1 to 4 billion cats, 1 to 4 billion birds a year in the US. Billion cats, I know. And I love my little stray cat next door that comes over and over. I love him. He's wonderful. But you know what? A good way to get rid of him, and I say get rid of him, I don't mean to get rid of him. I love him. I like when he comes. But I have a little spray bottle of water. And what I do is like when he gets fixated, because I have my feeders and he gets there and he looks and he's like looking at the birds. When he does that, I take the little spray bottle and I spray him with the water. And then it just changes his focus because they're focused and they're intent on something and they see it. And he's got those instincts. He's a jungle cat. He wants to like prey on everything, he brings me lizards and yeah. And so when he's sitting there and I take the lizard out of his mouth and he doesn't know what happened to it. He's looking and I throw it in the bushes somewhere and I'm like, saved another lizard, and the cat's like, what the heck? Anyway, but that's a good way to do it. So if you go, well, I don't know, I can't help it. My cat just lives outdoor. Well, use the spray bottle because that's what I do. And then he goes, oh, and then he gets into something else and then he's off. And then this way he's not fixated on the birds. So I got to keep him from looking at my birds. So less lawn, plant natives. We just talked about that. Avoid pesticides, drink shade grown coffee. My husband has one of those Nespressos and he likes his cappuccinos and all those espressos and things. So, but he orders them and he gets the shade grown because again, they're clear cutting forests and canopies, because there's different birds live in different parts of the canopy just to grow coffee. And you just that's not good. It's just not good. You need the whole canopy. So like if you can get shade grown coffee or organic or farmers, where they're working with the farmers, it costs a little more, but it even tastes better. It's good and good for the environment. Use less plastic. We talked about that. Watch birds, share what you see. The World Migratory Bird Day, they dim the lights at night. Well, we should really be dimming them, pretty much all the time. But if you could during migration, like we have some lights, I have to say, we have some like landscape lights. I shut them all off. I'm like, our house is dark. I don't care. The birds need to see because they get disoriented. And so, and then clean the feeders. If you're gonna feed them, these are my crows that come. And I always say, clean the feeders, change the water in the bird bath, gotta be clean because you want to provide food when it's scarce. I put a little tray out with my crows, and then I used to feed the crows. As you guys know, I do a crow call. Right, I do this crow call, and I call the crows. Oh, she wants to hear it. No. But so I call the crows, and they come. Like they might not even be around.
Now we have to hear it. I didn't know you did it.
Right.
I want to hear it. Come on.
Okay, well, I'll do it
Thank you.
in a minute. Yeah, no, but basically, yes. So these crows aren't even around, and when I call them, they know that food is coming because they know me, because they know like that crazy lady that has the food, right? So let's see if I could do it. So, and they come. It works. Yeah, but the crazy thing is the next door neighbors have Muscovy ducks, and the Muscovy ducks, when they hear me call, they know food is out. So they'll like waddle over, and they can't fly because they don't have their wing. They have their wings from, and they'll waddle, and they're fat, right? And they're like this, and they come running over to like eat the food before and the crows. I'm like, crows, hurry up, because these Muscovy ducks like will beat them to it. Anyway, so yeah, it's quite cute, but so. It's not all doom and gloom. There are birds that are recovering. And the nice thing about that is, and maybe this is a good time to take a little break. Do you want to take a little break? And we'll come back and we'll talk about the recovery of the birds. How's that? Because I don't want to leave you on a bad note. This is going to be positive, right? So let's take 10 more minutes, yeah? And how's that? 10 more minutes and then we'll come back. How's that? We'll come back. This isn't part of the presentation. This is just some birds that I took like bathing because they look so cute when they bathe. I just love when birds bathe because they're just adorable. So, okay, let me get back to the real slide. Let's see. Uh-oh. Okay. Right. So we were talking about recovering birds. Yeah. So fortunately, because of some, focused conservation programs in place, we can protect birds. So here's some, success stories. 15 million raptors gained since 1970, so that was good. And mainly that's because mainly the hawks and the falcons and things, they benefited from the focused conservation policy. So like the endangered species legislation, which banned DDT, that was a big, big plus because, the DDT was thinning the eggshells of the birds, and then birds were basically getting cracked and never making it to even fledge or anything. So it's a real comeback. It's funny, I didn't take this picture. I took all the other pictures, these I didn't take. But if you notice, this osprey is hanging the fish that way, but funny enough, when they hold a fish, I don't know if you've ever seen an osprey. First of all, catch a fish, it's really awesome to see them because they dive down, they catch the fish. They'll hold it like head first, and their hands are like this, and they'll hold it head first, tail, so that it's aerodynamic, and they fly with it this way. So if you've ever seen one, usually that's unusual. He might have just caught it, or he's like somehow he's losing his grip, because usually that's how they carry it. But waterfowl, thanks to conservation efforts. I don't know, you guys might have heard of like Ducks Unlimited. Basically, we have to kind of thank sport hunting because they put a lot of money into reserve, conservation of wetlands. It's a good thing they do because they're not just shooting the ducks, because yes, they shoot the ducks and that's not great, but they're going to shoot the ducks, right? So as long as they're shooting ducks, let them build that wetland area and the habitat up so that the ducks can thrive, and there'll be more of them around, so it's kind of a funny thing because you think, well, this is a great thing and they're getting these ducks up, but the population up, but then they're shooting them. But at least they are doing that, and so it's actually helped. And so we've actually gained 35 million different waterfowl because of those programs. And the duck stamp, if you go to the USPS, like you can get a duck stamp. So anything that you put towards that is duck stamp goes towards conservation efforts for the waterfowl. I didn't know that about the duck stamp. So that is something that you might, want to think about. And then 14 million woodpeckers since 1970 also because of different conservation efforts. So we can save the birds. And of course it could start in our own backyard. So I have bluebird boxes in my backyard. I know Annette said she got involved in bluebird monitoring. And basically it all started with, I had a box and the bluebirds started nesting in it. It's so awesome to watch. And these are great programs for kids too. Like, so if you guys have kids, it's a nice kind of a thing to have the kids watch, because basically, and the way I monitor these eggs and stuff, like I don't want to like open the box and all that. They have a little, the box has a little air thing at the top, and I slide my phone in, and I put it on selfie mode, and then I take the picture. So a lot of times they don't even know, especially when they're like this age. Like when they're like this age, their eyes are closed. They don't even know. They just hear and feel some movement, and they know food's coming, and they open their mouth. So it's pretty neat. So yeah, like every year I get about three broods of bluebirds. The eggs, the babies. This is a little fledgling. See, if you see a bird that looks like this, that's a fledgling bluebird. Like they don't look like this yet. They're little babies, right? Here you can see the baby sticking his head out, and the male is guarding it, the beautiful male. And here's the male feeding the baby. And beautiful, right? And then this is this was Easter Sunday, this was happening. It was like, Daddy, feed me. And so gorgeous. And the thing is too, like, it's so easy, it's not hard at all. You don't have to do anything. All you have to do is you just monitor, you just make sure that there's nothing in there that shouldn't be in there, like some kind of weird, I don't know, some insect took over or something, because you don't want those parasites and things to take over a nest. And the main thing is the box, keep it clean. So these bluebirds are real funny. They are very particular. They use, if you notice, it's pine needles. This is all pine needles, actually. Again, hard to believe that they go, you know how many trips they have to make back and forth, back and forth, back and forth with those pine needles? Because they build, the nest box is about this big and they'll build it all the way up. And so I try to help them, and sometimes I think I'm helping, and I throw in like a feather. I'll put the feather in the box, or I'll put in like, I have organic cotton. I have these things that the birds can take the organic cotton from it to use for their nests. And I'll put like a piece of cotton in. Nope, I find it on the ground. The bluebird's like, nah, I don't want that. Tosses it on the ground. They want their, yeah, and they want their nest the way they want it. So, so when they're done, after it's called a clutch, the clutch of eggs is a clutch of eggs. And then they have a brood, which is a, family that they're gonna, that fledge. Once they fledge and those birds are gone, I clean out the nest box. And this year I cleaned it out. I clean it really well. I use like vinegar, kind of antiseptic, because I don't want to use like harsh chemicals or anything like that, but I use something, and you want to get rid of anything that's in there or whatever. Like almost the next day, I mean, it was maybe 2 days later, she's building another nest, second nest. And right now, I don't have a picture of them, but there was another clutch of 4 eggs again. And I'm monitoring them, and first they look naked and they're ugly and they look really funny. And now then the last time I looked, they were like this. I'm sure now they're probably hunkered down a little bit.
And so it was the same female?
Typically, yes, it's the same one. Yes, they will do the
So
same.
they'll stay in the same spot?
Yes.
And build
Yep.
a new nest for each
A
one?
new nest for each
Okay.
one. Yep. Yep. Because you want to get rid of the old nest because it'll have, stuff in there that's not good. Now bluebirds and other birds will take out the fecal sac. The fecal sac is the birds, have to poop, and then they take that sac out and they carry it far away so that it's away from the nest. But yes.
So if you don't get the nest out in time, a lot of times they'll build on top of the second.
They will.
The problem is, because you got the hole, as they stack on top.
Yeah.
The closer you get to the hole, the danger that the fledglings will get out too soon. That's why.
Right.
It's important to clean it out. We don't use any chemicals at all. What I do is
Right.
I open it and just let it, I take this little small broom and just broom it out. And leave
Yeah.
it open for a day, and you're done.
Yeah, see, well, I use vinegar to clean out because a lot of times there's like some poop and things in there, and there's just stuff in there you don't want, nasty things. Not all the time, but sometimes. So I just clean that out. I do rinse it out. I take a hose, I blast it, I leave it open, I let it air out, and then once it's dry, it's ready to go again, But yeah, I do it right away because again, you don't want to leave that nest festering in there because they will build on top of it.
I could look this up, but how far up is the box? I mean, do you have access to it? Or do you have to put it on a ladder?
There is on the side.
Next presenter is the Bluebird expert.
Yes.
So if you want to say your
That's
piece,
true.
Linda, that's
She'll
her
tell you all
thing.
about that.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, I don't want to steal her thunder. Yeah. So basically, yep, there's a way to clean it out and open it and all that. So, well, yeah. So let me go on to the next one, which is my chickadee boxes. So I have another box that has a small hole, and these are chickadee eggs. And little chickadees had their babies. Again, can't see what they're doing, then they get a little bit fuzzy, and then they get their feathers, and then they get kind of too big for the nest, and then they fledge, and they're adorable. So, so I got my bluebird boxes, I got my chickadee boxes. Now, when the birds aren't using the boxes in the winter, so over the winter, I get little evening bats. And they tell me they're not so cute. I know people think that bats are good for the environment. They're gonna eat a lot of the mosquitoes and a lot of insects, but I don't like mosquitoes as much. They eat other insects. But the thing is, I put this cotton in there in the winter thinking like, well, the birds at night will roost and, maybe like they'll need a little cotton to keep warm. These guys took it over. I thought it was amazing. So you gotta admit they're cute. But when I first opened the box, because I just check on the box every now and then just to make sure there's no like wasp nests or anything, right? I opened it up and I saw it. I didn't have my contacts in. I didn't have my glasses on, and everything was blurry. And I looked and I opened it up. I said, oh, there's a mouse sleeping in the box. And so I told my husband, I said, we have a little sleeping mouse in the box. And he comes over, he goes, that's not a sleeping mouse. He's like, that's a bat. I'm like, okay, cool. So yeah, it was pretty good. Anyway, so how can we get involved? So this public involvement, citizen science projects. There's so many different things. Now this Cornell Lab of Ornithology, what a wealth of information. I mean, if you go to that website and you start clicking around, yeah, I could get out of the way if you don't need me in here, but take a picture because all these different websites have a lot to offer. So Cornell Lab is amazing. They're up in Ithaca, New York, and they do all the, scientific studies, and they do all those birdcast migration patterns and where all the radar and all the citizen science data. That's where eBird, they do eBird. So eBird is that app that I was telling you about. And basically birders love it because, I mean, years ago, we used to just write down the birds, so I've been doing this a long time. And so, you used to have to just kind of keep your list. Now, you put everything in eBird and it goes into this whole science project. And, again, scientists use this data for like knowing where are the birds, where are they migrating? Are they going sooner or later? Where are they? Nest Watch is one of their programs, and that Nest Watch, again, what I do is I monitor those nests and then I input data to tell them. And they just want to know, like, basically, the dates that estimated dates that they laid the eggs, how many, how long were they, incubating? When did they fledge? How many fledged? Do you have live young? Things like that. And so it's, again, good data for them to know. So Nest Watch is really neat. And that's where, if you have kids, you can kind of teach them and get them involved. They love to do stuff like that, Great Backyard Bird Count, that is something that happens every year. This Project Feeder Watch, where over the winter you watch your feeders and then you monitor and you input what birds come to your feeders. The Breeding Bird Survey, that's more like a global thing. That's out of like UK, but still. International World Migratory Bird Day. We just had that, like, I don't know, a couple of weeks ago or whatever. And what we did was on a Saturday, we all got together, a bunch of us, and they call it the Big Sit. We went to Lakeside this year. Last year it was at Creekside. You sit in a circle and you have a circle, and then you have to count all the birds that come in or that you see from that circle for, X amount of hours or whatever. And you do it, and then you input that data. So that was fun. And so there's ways to get, involved and get meeting people. Black Birders Week, it's good because they're getting more people of color and other people that, a lot of times, I don't know if anybody saw that video. Oh my gosh, that video a long time ago where the black birder was birding and then the woman was saying that she was assaulted. It was ridiculous. I mean, oh my gosh. So anyway, then my brother was terrible. Christmas bird counts. Those are fun. I mean, I did those in Virginia. It was freezing. We were like walking in snow. At least here, when we do the Christmas bird count, it's a little cold, but it's doable, right? This past year, we had 33 people on the count that I did. I did the Spring Creek Nature Trail. We had 33 people. That's a good amount of people, all different ages, different people could come. And so it's a great way to, again, you add to the citizen science, and then you see what's around. It's a lot of fun. Years ago, they used to shoot the birds, and that's how they used to actually count them. They used to, like Audubon, they used to shoot the birds and then bring the specimens back. I know, right? It seems crazy, but back then, that was a long time ago. We didn't know that we didn't have all these great tools that we have now, It's hard to believe, right? But so there's a lot of good resources. I was talking about, bird atlases, like the one that, there's different bird field guides. They're all very useful. I have probably 25 to 30 birding books. They're all different. And you know what? They're all very, very useful. I mean, I have like a warbler guide and a Crossley guide. The Crossley guide is just photographs. And then there's the Sibley guide. And, there's so many guides, but it's such a great tool because you can, I'll have a little thing here too. Matter of fact, this is a little from Cornell Lab. it's kind of cool. It's a poster of all these different birds, right? And they have like them numbered. It's kind of a neat thing to just test your knowledge and go like, okay, see if you can name the birds, because it does tell you what they are on the back. Again, fun thing for kids. Cornell Lab's got all kinds of stuff. They give you this for when you do Feeder Watch, I think it is, Project Feeder Watch. But anyway, I'm getting off the track. The reason I was saying that was just, it's so neat. So you've got your guides, but then you've got, Audubon.org, Bird Note is another. They have a little podcast, and then they also, it's a very quick podcast. It's like a minute or something, and they just tell you like some brief tips. But they also have a website, and Audubon.org will give you like places where these festivals are happening, all the bird walks are happening. So again, Cornell Lab of Ornithology with the eBird app. It's an amazing app. If you don't use it, just play around and see if you can, it's a great app because it will help you ID the birds and also be able to keep your lists, and it sorts it in all different ways, like the first time you saw a bird, where you saw it, all that stuff. And they offer a really good, this eBird Essentials course. It's free and it's really good, especially if you're just starting out. It'll help you learn how to use eBird. And then there's a birdsoftheworld.org, and that really goes into each species and it tells you more about them. The Merlin app. Okay, so where's the soapbox? No, okay, so the Merlin app is a really powerful tool. It's very helpful to ID and confirm. We didn't have this years ago, so I used to have to listen to CDs and kind of listen to the bird and see if I could match it up. But you know what? I really, really learned the bird calls, and people who know me know that, like I could look out and go, Carolina wren, black-capped chickadee, or whatever. I could I hear them. I hear them before I see them. I hear the bird because I have learned them through the years. Well, now we've got an app called Merlin, which is through Cornell Lab. It's wonderful, wonderful. Now, I took this and I copied it here because I thought it was really interesting. And they have a best practices part. And it says you should always independently verify each suggestion before reporting it into eBird. Like all birders, Merlin can make mistakes. If you're not confident that Merlin's suggestion is correct, or if you have not considered it independently, don't report it to eBird. Try to see the bird making the sound to confirm the ID. Do not report whatever Merlin says without considering it first. This is my pet peeve. Just because, especially at the Spring Creek Nature Trail, because, I've been going to that place before it opened. I know it by the back of my hand. I've been there so many times. I've led walks. I know what birds come and go. There's always birds coming and going. There's different ones all the time, which is really cool. So I'm a little protective of the place. But when somebody comes along and goes, oh, and this just happened, I'm not mentioning names or anything like that, but a birder, a good birder who's, from another country, knows birds, she puts a painted bunting. And I know, the story of painted bunting. And it's like, okay, so she put a painted bunting and some other birds too that weren't around. Like 10 of us birders were there that day. We birded for 4 hours in the same places. We used Merlin. It came up as painted bunting, but we didn't see the painted bunting, and we looked for it because it said, wow, Merlin's saying there's a painted bunting here. We looked for it. We couldn't find it. And we're like, I'm not putting it. If I don't see it or I can't confirm that it's there, it's one thing if I hear it too. If I hear it and I know the bird and Merlin says, because a lot of times that'll happen. I'm like, oh, Eastern Meadowlark. And then later, Merlin goes, Eastern, okay, Merlin confirmed it, But if I don't know that that bird is there, I won't put it into eBird. Because again, I know, yeah, you think, well, one person puts in the data that's wrong. But you know what, if a bunch of people do that, and a lot of people do it because maybe they're new to birding and they go, oh, because they don't know. And they're like, oh, we heard this, and this, and I'm putting it in eBird. But those birds aren't really there, so it's skewing the data. So that is my pet peeve. And I'm kind of like, please don't do that. And you know what, if you know anybody who uses Merlin, just tell them, when you're with them or you're birding, just don't put in anything that Merlin says. You can't take it as, gospel. You have to say, well, you know what, does it make sense? Is it true? And the thing about the painted bunting, I actually talked to the person too. I talked to her, we had a conversation, blah, blah, blah. But the thing, because I said, oh, where did you see it? Because, there was 10 of us out there for 4 hours and we did hear it on Merlin, and we didn't put it because we didn't see it. Did you see it? You know, I was curious. She said, no, Merlin said. And I said, oh, well, we really shouldn't be doing that, you know, but we had a talk and she didn't take it off, but that's okay. But that's my pet peeve. So just, you know, just being aware. It's a really powerful tool. It's a great tool. And I think that it's amazing. We've come a long way. So here's another podcast. I'm going to promote this because it's called The Science of Birds. And it's a podcast by this guy, Ivan Phillipson, and he is a biologist, a zoologist, and he's so funny. The nice thing about it is like, well, he does various topics. So the podcast is monthly, and he does various topics of different birds and different bird topics. But he's really good as far as like ornithological science. Like he really knows the science and he gets into it, but he also has like a quirky sense of humor. So it's not boring, you know, so there's a lot of scientific data and everything, but he's quirky and he's funny. And so, and the reason I put these cedar waxwings here was because one of his podcasts he did on cedar waxwings, and he was saying how like, he's like, cedar waxwings, oh, they're like the bohemian birds. They're so laid back. They're all fun loving and, you know, this and that. And I'm like, really? I was like, well, these birds were in my backyard and you can see they're like yelling at each other. Right? They're like, it looks like they're having like a major quarrel here, you know, and I took a bunch of pictures and I sent them to him and I said, you got to see this. I said, you know, these birds are not as laid back as you think. I was like, dude, they're like all fighting in my backyard. So he laughed. He thought it was really funny. And so that's why I put the birds there. But his podcast is amazing. And I listened to it. And then he has like patrons who, you know, you can donate money, you know, so that it keeps him in business. Because podcasters don't make money doing it. They just love to do it. And so, you know, unless they have advertisers. He doesn't have advertisers. So anyway, so I'm one of his awesome ospreys. So that's basically why. But he's good. Whoops, click. He's good. He's really good. And it's interesting, very interesting. So we are coming to the end of this. So basically, for more info on bird walks, so the BayouLandConservancy.org, if you go to there and say bird walks, you'll see at the Spring Creek Nature Trail every Monday and every first Saturday of the month, September to June, I will lead a walk. And the reason we stop in the summer is just too darn hot, you know, but I also put my info here too, Houston Audubon, because it's kind of through BLC, Bayou Land Conservancy, and Houston Audubon. And all these birds here, these were all at the Spring Creek Nature Trail, all these egrets and herons and stuff. I mean, isn't that amazing? That's a tricolored. You could see like there's tons of birds that come, you know. Like I said, I took all these photos, not this one. But this is all my info here. So feel free to email me. Sometimes they call me the bird lady. I get emails like, hey, I took this picture. What is this? Or what's that? I don't mind IDing if I can, if I know what they are. I'm glad to help you. If during the summer, when I'm not leading the walks, if you feel like, hey, I'm around, I want to go on a bird walk. What are you doing? Hey, if I can go with you, I'll go with you. I'm happy to do that. I've had people ask me to come to their house and see what's around and tell them what's there. I love to do that. I love it. It's great. So that's pretty much everything, but I'd like to kind of see if you have questions about things, because I know I've been doing a lot of talking and there's always a lot to say. Oh, there is one other thing I'd like to point out. This is a book, it's called Nature's Best Hope. It's by Douglas Tallamy. And it says, a new approach to conservation that starts in your yard. I think everybody should read it. It's a really good book. And I know Jeff Hodges, who was also part of the trail maintenance crew. Matter of fact, I kind of recruited him, and Diana, I know we both kind of recruited him and got him coming. And the trail maintenance, we basically, you know, maintain the trails at the Bayou Land Conservancy, Spring Creek Nature Trail. But this book is really good, and it says, you know, if you're worried about the planet, change starts in your backyard, and it tells all about, you know, rewilding and planting and natives. It's just a really good book, so I would recommend that. I definitely recommend Merlin. I definitely recommend eBird. Go to Cornell Lab because that's a wealth of information. They have like everything. And if I could answer any questions, I'd be happy to. I know I talk a lot about, you could go, I could go off on a tangent, but I was trying to rein everything in and, so nobody has anything, nothing.
Thank you so
All
much.
right.
Enjoy the class and,
We have a few announcements
Do your-
and then we'll take another quick
Yeah.
break while our.
Thank you.
Tech set up. Thank you so much. Jojo and I were in the same 2022
Mhm.
training class. So thank you so much. We
Yeah, I
appreciate it.
appreciate the
So
opportunity.
all of you might have the chance to be a presenter to our interns in the future if you have something that you'd like to share. Okay, Rebecca, why don't you do your announcements first?
So we are getting near the end of class. We don't have class next week. It's Labor Day next weekend.
Memorial Day.
Memorial Day.
Oh, yeah.
Excuse me. The next week, it will be our final instructional class. And then the last class, the last Saturday is our graduation and our project presentation. So we're wrapping things up. We would love it. Zoom folks, if you guys could come into our last instructional class so we can all hang out and especially come to the graduation. In leading up to those, we have 2 surveys that we're working on to send you guys out, or to send out to you guys. The first one is a survey asking who will be at graduation. This one is very important because we want to know if you're bringing family or friends. That will let us know how many snacks we need to bring or need to buy and bring, how much cake we should bring, and how many chairs we need to have out so that your loved ones can watch you walk across our stage-ish to get your goodies for being in the class and participating. And then the second survey is going to be a course evaluation. We just want to know what you thought about the course, what we can do differently, what we should do the same, and some more questions about how much you want to participate after the course and what the chapter can do to keep you involved or get you more involved. So it really helps us moving forward. And yeah, look in your emails for those 2. They're super important. The first one that'll go out will be the graduation project and number count. We want to know how many of you guys are doing projects too, because we're going to be setting up these tables. And right now it's kind of a question mark.
Why don't we do show of hands real quick, just to get an idea, but we still want you to answer the survey. How many are doing a project and will need a table set up? Hands high.
Good.
Okay, all right, great. Thank you.
Okay, one last thing that I'm supposed to announce. Oh, Melissa's here, back corner. She also brought banana bread because she's amazing.
Yeah.
It's on the back table. Melissa can help you guys to check your hours to make sure that you are good to graduate in 3 weeks when we have our graduation ceremony. So stop by her table if you need to, especially during this next break.
Yeah, this next break or after our final presenter. So let's take a 5-minute break. Some of you, okay.
I just want to say one thing.
Yes, go
Just,
ahead.
I think if you attend my bird walk, you
Yeah.
get some advanced training hours.
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
you have a chance to get some advanced training hours if you need them before you graduate.
There you
Yes.
It's good to know.
Yeah, you need a total of 8 advanced training
Yeah.
to graduate, and you can get a nice
Yeah.
chunk of them with
Yeah.
JoJo.
Yeah.
And the code should be on our calendar on the Heartwood page. The code, if you scroll down to the bottom of the description of those walks, it should say what you can plug it in as.
Yeah, all right. Thanks again, JoJo.
Sure.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, so we'll take
Right.
a 5-minute break. Some of you can see Melissa now if you need to while we get Linda set
Thank
up.
you so much. So I just.
All right, we're ready to start with our next presenter.
Is this somebody's phone?
That's fine, thank you.
Yeah.
It's my notes for announcements.
All right. We are excited to have Linda Crum with us. She is a longtime presenter at all of our intern classes for many, many years. She is also a fellow Heartwood member from way, way back. And she is passionate about bluebirds, and she's with the Texas Bluebird Society. So welcome back, Linda.
Thank
It's all
you.
yours. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have to talk loud or do you have a microphone?
Oh, we have a microphone. We're back
Okay,
together.
because I'm recovering from bronchitis and if I talk too loud, I'll start coughing.
Oh, gosh, yeah. Okay.
Is that the mic?
This is on mic right here and should
Okay. Okay, that's good. I can just talk normally. Well, we're gonna talk about bluebirds today. All right, I need to know, never mind. I've got it right here. Okay, somebody's gonna have to get me out of this mess, because I can't.
Go back up, go back.
I pushed something I should not have.
Oh, really? Okay. That's okay.
Oh, there we go.
I'm gonna fix something for our online people too, if you don't.
Okay.
And you can go ahead if you have anything.
Close that chat.
Yeah, the online people can't see the right screen. Here we go. Is that good, Virginia? Okay, great.
Okay, well, this PowerPoint presentation doesn't necessarily reflect the views of Texas Bluebird Society. They make me say that because they never know what I'm gonna say. Okay, I'm pushing the forward button and it's not working.
Click just anywhere on the screen right there and it should work, on the computer. Just click the little mouse pad thing,
I am clicking the mouse pad.
and then now your clicker should work.
Oh, okay. Well, the birds are gonna richly repay you for the trouble you take taking care of them, looking out for their interest. This is a Bluebird Monitor's Guide. I think it's out of print, so if you ever see one somewhere in a used book sale, get it, because it's a very good, book for bluebirds. Well, how many species of you know you're gonna have to test right away, didn't you? How many species of bluebirds are in Texas? What are you saying, 2? No. 3. They're all 3. All 3 are in Texas, not in this area, but in Texas. There are, you have the eastern bluebird, the western bluebird, and the mountain bluebird. The eastern bluebird, this is her territory or their territory. You can see that they're here year-round in this part of Texas. This is what you're going to see if you see bluebirds. You're going to see this particular species. The mountain bluebird, this is their territory right here. They're out in West Texas all the way up to California. And the western bluebird, they're in West Texas. So we're only going to have the eastern bluebird here in our area. They're a member of the thrush family, along with thrushes and solitaires and robins. You have bluebirds. This is the female right here. She has a white eye ring around her eye. And she's not as colorful as the male, but she is beautiful just the same. And here's the male eastern bluebird. You can see that he's a little bit more blue with a red throat. And this is a fledgling. This is what they look like when they fly from the nest. They have speckled feathers and they will not get their adult plumage until they molt in the fall. So their average lifespan is about 2 years. They can live up to 6 or even more, but there are a lot of predators out there for birds. The basic needs are food, water, and shelter. And they have to have a cavity for nesting. They can't build a nest in the bushes like the mockingbirds do. They have to have some type of cavity, whether it be a natural cavity or one that you provide with a bluebird box. So if you want bluebirds in your yard, you need to put up a box. And if you need to know where to buy a box, I have them. If you want to call me, we can get together on that. So what do Texas bluebirds eat? Don't know? Insects, right. They eat insects, spiders, caterpillars, and mealworms. They don't eat, they will eat suet. I put out hot pepper suet for the birds, and I use the hot pepper because I have squirrels. And they don't like hot pepper suet, so. You'll see one try it every now and then. It's not pleasant. Mealworms equals a snack. You don't want to feed them too many mealworms because they're not nutritionally complete for the bluebird. They'll eat grasshoppers, any kind of insect. Here there is the male bluebird. He's got a huge, and that insect is huge. He's going to feed a baby bluebird, that insect. They eat them. Now, what happened there? Okay. And then, of course, you've got to clean up the fecal sacks after the bluebird eats. He's going to poop, and they take it out of the sack. They keep it the box very clean. They eat berries when insects are not in season. So in the wintertime, you'll want to plant native plants that have berries for the bluebirds and any of the birds. Here they eat pokeweed. They'll eat American beautyberry. They don't get as much of that in my yard as they used to, because I make jelly out of American. Do y'all know you can make jelly out of this? It's really good. But so I have a lot of beautyberry in my yard. So the birds have it too. Parsley hawthorn, they'll eat these berries. They'll eat strawberry bush. I love this plant. It's just the seed pods are so decorative. And arrowwood viburnum, they'll eat this. All of these are native plants that I'm showing you. Flowering dogwood, they'll eat those berries. And roughleaf dogwood. Their berries look a little toxic to me, but the birds will eat them, so. I just don't like berries. Excuse me. Coral honeysuckle. And you want to have plants that attract insects too, because insects are their primary diet. So this is Barbara's buttons, and you want to have water. Here are these little fledglings, and they're just enthralled with their own reflection here. Are they country birds or are they city birds? Well, they're both. The preferred habitat is open area, low vegetation, with a few trees nearby, because they do need to, sometimes they will nest in old woodpecker holes that the woodpeckers have abandoned. They can't make their own cavity. So that's strange. They're cavity nesters. And I guess God provided the woodpeckers to abandon their nests for the bluebirds. They're good neighbors with other cavity nesters. This is a good habitat right here. You've got a pecan orchard and it's open, the bluebird box. Even graveyards, the neighbors don't complain at all. So this is a good place to put your bluebird box because it's open, you got trees nearby. In your own yard. How far apart should you have your bluebird boxes? Well, if you can't see one box from another, that's good. So one in the front yard maybe, depending on what your HOA tells you you can do, and one in the backyard. But you can't have them right next to each other. They're very territorial. And they need to be a Texas Tough nest box because our summers are so hot. So you might want to put heat shields on the box. These are plastic heat shields, and there's a space between it and the box. And then this person has painted these dark holes on here because this hole's hard to see. There's a big overhang here. So the bird sees this and goes, oh, there's a cavity. So it comes down to investigate and finally finds the real cavity. This is in my backyard. My husband said one time, this is many years ago, he said, what are the neighbors saying about us? Got this umbrella out there over this box. And I said, the neighbors talk about me anyway. I'm just giving them something interesting to say. We never wanted to be talked about. So anyway, I put this umbrella up because this box was getting western sun in the afternoon, and that's too hot for it. Okay, you can put a data logger in there to help to gauge the temperature inside your box. You don't want it to get too hot. Here you can see the temperatures in the Texas weathered nest box. That's this one right here. It gets up almost to 109 degrees. That's way too hot. You have the normal venting right here, and that's like a half an inch of vent underneath this box. There's a vent there at the top of the side. Extra venting, you can bring it down almost a degree. I have it 5/8 of an inch. You can put heat shields on the box and bring the temperature down 3 degrees. And then you can paint the box. It says tan, but it's kind of an off-white. Brings it down even more. And the ambient temperature, that's the temperature of the air, is 92.3 degrees. So you can see by painting your nest box a light color, you can bring the temperature down from 109 degrees to 99. You can bring it down quite a bit. So I recommend that you paint your box. Here is a graph giving you the same information. So what do we got here? Oh, this is just showing the different temperatures of the boxes right here. And you can see that the box with the shields on it is the lowest temperature that you have.
What are the shields made
You would ask that question.
of? Is it chemical? PVC stuff?
Well, I used to have some shields on my boxes, but I just painted them now. I have forgotten what the shields are made of. Does anybody know?
It's kind of like a plastic and almost looks like styrofoam. It's real lightweight,
Okay,
you know, like
lightweight styrofoam-like material.
that white poster board that's like 1/4 inch thick, it's foam lined,
Okay,
what it looks like.
predators and competitors. Raccoons. So, when you mount your box, you need to put a predator guard on it so these raccoons can't climb up. This little square around the hole here, that raccoon's arm is very long. It can reach into the bottom of the box. So it can get into the box. They will eat your little baby bluebird eat the eggs. Here we have a predator guard on the box, on the pole here, but it's down near the ground. I mean, the snake has no problem going over that and getting up to the box. You need to put this predator guard right up under the box. So the snake has to climb up the pole before it gets to the predator guard. And then when it gets to the top of the predator guard, right here, there is a screen that won't allow it to go on up. This is a Texas rat snake. This is what you're gonna see if you don't put your predator guard up. You don't want to see that when you open up your bluebird box. So you can put a trap, this netting right here, and it climbs the pole, it gets caught up in the netting, and what do you do with a snake that's caught up in the netting? Well, I kill them. I don't know what y'all do with them, but, or I'll take it somewhere else and let it go. Depends on what kind of snake it is. Cats. This is a staged photo, by the way. Keith Kreidler took this picture, and he put the cat up there. I think he probably put some food around the hole here, so the cat's trying to find the food. But cats are predators of birds. And I have a cat, and she's always inside, because I don't want her out there getting the birds. Hawks, this is another predator of your bluebirds. Not much you can do about them. They're part of our ecosystem. Spiders. This is a black widow spider inside the box. I open my boxes because of things like this. And the birds don't seem to mind. If they do, they ignore me. Wasp, you can find wasp nest in your box. You can take a bar of soap and rub it on the inside of the top of the nest box, on the ceiling of the nest box, and the wasp can't adhere their nest. But there's a soap there, and the soap doesn't get on the birds. You don't want to put it down the side. Flying squirrels, this is another inhabitant of nest boxes. So you need to put up another box. I hate to evict flying squirrels. Possums. I used to work for the Woodlands Township, and we had a nest box out there, and one day we looked in it, and there were these little possums. Little baby possums in the nest box. Well, we just left them there. They eventually left. But they had actually chewed this hole out. You can avoid that by putting a metal plate over the hole. Just buy Wild Birds Unlimited has them. You can find them online at Amazon, I guess. Metal plate, 5/8, inch, so you can have the right size. You can also do this if you've got chickadees nesting in the box. You can put a hole reducer on there so the bluebirds can't evict them. Because chickadees only nest once a year, and they get beat up by all the other birds, so I like to protect them. They're one of my favorites. So here's a correctly mounted nest box. People want to know how tall do you, you don't have to be climbing up on a ladder, especially at my age, looking in the nest box. So put it so that you can monitor the nest box without getting on a ladder. And you can see here, the predator guard is right up under the nest box where it should be. There's a screen on there. So the snake he's got to climb this pole. And so he keeps climbing the pole. When he gets there, he can't get up any further. From courtship to a family. Well, courtship involves a wing wave. I mean, they start waving their wings at each other, and that's, hey babe, I'm over here. This is a male, and he's trying to attract the attention of a female. And she's so happy, she's dancing, look at her. So this is the male, and he's looking in this nest box saying, hey, come over here, we got something for you. So she comes over to check, and he's inside, and so if they go inside the nest box, there's a pretty good chance they're going to select it for nesting. Now, there's natural cavity nesting also, but they can't build their own cavity. That little beak is not strong enough to do that to a tree, or a post. So they rely on the woodpeckers. Here we've got a bird she's got a fecal sac in her mouth, and she's just left this cavity right here. That's where her nest is. And we're good about cleaning it. Oops, I forgot to tell y'all, this is a X-rated PowerPoint. So this is the bird sex right here. And she's the female is the one that builds the nest. You can see she's waiting for him to get out of the way. She's got her nesting material here, which is grass. If there are pine trees close by, she will use pine needles to build a nest. Otherwise, she'll use grass. Here he is. He's trying to help. Look at that little wimpy piece of nesting material there. And she's saying, would you please move? So this is what a bluebird nest looks like. This is made of pine needles right here. If you don't have pine needles, they'll make it out of grasses, but it will not look like a house sparrow nest. It will look like, nice, neat bluebird nest. She will lay one egg a day until she's finished. Here she's laid 6 eggs. Then she begins to incubate. She wants all those eggs to hatch on the same day, so she's not going to start incubating with egg 1. And 5% of bluebirds lay white eggs. I don't know why, they just don't have that pigment, I guess. Always pushing it on. But here are the white eggs of a nest that I monitored. And the son took that photo. Normal clutch size, 3 to 5 eggs. She will incubate. It says 12 to 14 days. Every bluebird that has nested in my yard has incubated 14 days. Not 13, not 15, 14. So I don't know where they incubate 12. But they will start to hatch. And the young will be fed about 5 times an hour. That's constant feeding of these young bluebirds. And here you can see they've just hatched here. Got their little mouths open. They're a little bit older here. Here the feathers have started to come in. So it's amazing they can get from this to fledging in 14 days. Here the wings are well developed in about 12 days, so they're pretty close to fledging here. And when they start looking out of the nest box right here, you know they're going to fledge within a day or 2. And here the parents feeding, and she's just very anxious to eat whatever daddy has there. And then the adult bluebirds will encourage the young to come out of the nest by singing. And they do not return to the nest once they fledge. And, they'll fledge anywhere from 16 to 20 days, and they're out. And the parents continue to feed them and take care of them for a couple of weeks, and then they say, out of here, you're on your own. 3 to 4 weeks. So you can see the difference in the feathers here. This is the adult plumage, and the juveniles have this speckled look about them. And they will have, here in Texas, they'll have anywhere from 2 to 4 nestings a year. And this is what there's nothing wrong with this bird. They just molt and that lose this is a fledgling that's losing its feathers. You can see the speckles here. So it's getting its adult plumage. Here he's cleaning out the nest. So once the birds have fledged, you want to clean out the nest. Just take it out and don't strew the material under the nest. Take it away from the box so that snakes can't smell the bluebirds. Check nest boxes regularly during the season, in the afternoon if possible, and that's because during her egg laying period, she's going to lay 1 egg a day, and she does that in the morning. So you want to wait until the afternoon to monitor the nest box. And there's nothing wrong with opening up the nest box. I usually tap on it to make sure the adult's not in there, and I open it up and check and see how many eggs has she laid, or check to see the age of the bluebirds. So you've got 10 steps to success. You want to choose the correct nest box, located in the appropriate habitat, open territory with trees nearby, and provide the predator guards so the snakes can't climb up and eat your little babies. You want to eliminate pesticides, because what do bluebirds eat? They eat insects, and if you're out there spraying to kill the insects, they'll have nothing to eat. And you have to wait, and you monitor and record and report the data, and plant native plants and berries. Clean out the box after each nesting, and check boxes at the beginning of the season before nesting has started. Now, sometimes they'll nest in February, so you've got to get out there at the beginning of February to check and make sure your boxes are all cleaned out. And you want to investigate 2 websites, alice.org and texasbluebirdsociety.org. Do y'all have any questions? I swear I had a longer PowerPoint than this, but yes.
When you first saw the white variation of the eggs, did you think there was a different bird that had gotten in there, or did you already know?
I already knew. Yeah, because I had seen the bluebirds investigating and going in the nest. And by the appearance of the nest too, you know what kind of nest it is. Yes.
How do you prevent ants from getting in there?
Ants from getting in there?
Have you ever run across that?
I've never had that problem.
Okay.
But if you see fire ants building a mound, you know, you need to treat it.
I've only seen it once in the 65 boxes I maintained in 3 years. All I had to do is open it up and leave it open over the weekend, and the ants went away.
Was there a nest in there?
No.
Okay.
Oh, I thought that ants were more of a problem with bluebirds, but I guess not.
No, I've not had a problem with ants.
Not with the boxes. I think it's because there's no food source there. The box is just plain wood and it's not something that,
No, I mean, I'm going after the baby birds like,
yeah. I haven't seen it in 3 years.
that's good to know, thanks.
Yeah.
Then did you want to talk about your boxes that are available?
Yeah, if you join Texas Bluebird Society as a new member, you get a free box. And I think membership is, I think it's $20, I'm not sure. The boxes are 30. So, joining the society gets you a savings in the box. And
If you just want an additional box, it's 30.
yeah, if you just want to buy, if you don't want to join, you just want a box, it's $30. So, any other questions? Yes,
There's specific shape to the box that they prefer.
a specific shape. Well, our boxes are rectangular in shape, but that's so they can. You want it that way so that they have room to build a nest in it.
Our boxes are built to standard, there's a specific standard that's recommended by, Audubon and Texas Parks and Wildlife.
Mhm.
Their boxes are built to the exact standards, and that's what we've been going for over 20 years.
Plans are available on the Texas Bluebird Society site.
Right. Yes.
In my boxes, I see this white substance, like on the back, on the front. And if they're so clean, I guess that's not excrement, that's something else. You know what that is? White deposits?
Sounds like bird poop to me. So,
Something extra to scrub off.
right, right. I don't really do anything to my boxes except just take the nest out and brush out the debris. They're pretty clean birds, so there's not much to clean up there.
Well, not Jeff.
Jeff's got some dirty birds.
Yeah, dirty bird.
Yes.
So I have a pair that is in the box right outside my window, and I've been watching them for a couple of years. And it seems that on the second or third hatching, some of the older fledglings come and help eat.
They will do that. Right. Yeah. They've got to learn somewhere, you know. So they will do that. The older fledglings from previous broods will help feed subsequent broods. Yes, ma'am.
So having the nest box, is it important to have it away from a building? I mean, will that, like under the eave of a building would never work?
You don't want it where a predator can get at it. So you don't want to put it on a building or too near a building. No.
I really suggest you don't attach it to a tree either.
No, do not attach it to a
We
tree
had several
because,
trees struck by lightning and it would have been a problem.
well, raccoons are also a problem when they're on the tree. Yeah.
Raccoons, squirrels, yes, I really, don't put it on a tree.
Mm.
Please don't paint them black either, I've seen that in my neighborhood, and I will talk to the owner.
They're painted black.
Yeah, there were a couple that were painted black, I've gotten them repainted by educating the owners of.
Yeah. They need to be painted a light color.
We understand what we use.
Yeah. Any other questions? Okay, well, thanks for having
Thanks
me.
so much.
Thank you.
Oh, here's a mirror that I use. A telescoping mirror, and it also has a light. So you can turn the light on and check your bird eggs and stuff. And it's okay to open the box, as long as you close it when you're finished. Okay, thanks.